Chapter 17:17. Lu Chongshan, Yin Rui, and Lu Jingli all looked at Xiaobao anxiously, afraid that he would lose control of his emotions when he saw this scene. They had even asked the doctor to make all kinds of preparations. However, what awaited them was something worse than losing control of his emotions. Even after seeing Ning Shi, the little boy still had no reaction. The dull expression on his face was exactly the same as before. What they were most worried about still happened. The child had seen Ning Shi get shot and injured with his own eyes. Under extreme fear and an ominous premonition, he was knocked unconscious by Ning Shi. He might even have woken up in Ning Shi's arms at the last moment. In his subconscious, perhaps Ning Shi was already dead, so he would forever exist in that world with his dead mother. Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan's faces were full of despair as they looked at their emotionless grandson who had no reaction to the outside world. Xiaobao had walked out because of Ning Shi. But this time, without Ning Shi, who else could make Xiaobao walk out of the shadows a second time? Lu Jingli, who was behind them, was anxious. He hurried over and carried Xiaobao to Ning Shi's bed. He placed Xiaobao on the edge of Ning Shi's bed and gently touched Ning Shi's cheek with his little hand. "Baby, look, it's Mommy." However, the little boy was like a puppet on strings, manipulated mechanically. Lu Jingli's heart fell to the bottom. He hugged the little boy in his arms with heartache. "Xiaobao, wake up." At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's cold and deep voice rang out in the ward. She was shot in the arm, abdomen, and leg. Her scapula is comminuted and 3 ribs are broken. Hearing Lu Tingxiao's words, Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan looked extremely nervous. They didn't understand why their son was continuing to provoke Xiaobao. They hurriedly pulled him to stop him. However, Lu Tingxiao continued without hesitation. She's currently in a PVS state, which means she's in a vegetative state. Because her injuries are too serious, she might not wake up for the rest of her life, even though her life is saved. At this point, Lu Tingxiao looked at his son, who was tensing up. He knew that he had heard his words. Of course, she might suddenly wake up one day. This required the person she cared about the most, the person closest to her, and the person she loved the most to always be by her side, calling out to her and protecting her. Your mother worked so hard to protect you. If you have the heart to let her continue to lie there for the rest of her life, if you have the heart to let her exchange her life for a terrible person like you, then you can continue like this. Lu Tingxiao paused and then said, "Xiaobao, Mommy needs you." As soon as Lu Tingxiao's voice fell, the little guy's hollow eyes finally changed, and his little hand on Ning Shi's cheek moved slightly. Yinru noticed that Xiaobao was suddenly staring at the food container in her hand. She hurriedly walked over and asked, "Xiaobao, do you want to eat something?" Xiaobao stared blankly at the food in Yin Rui's hand and nodded. Seeing that Xiaobao finally had a reaction, Yin Rui was overjoyed. Lu Chongshan and Lu Jingli also heaved a sigh of relief. "Come, Xiaobao, have some porridge first. This porridge is very glutinous and fragrant." Xiaobao picked up the bowl of porridge and quickly drank half of it, as if he was extremely hungry. Drink slowly, drink slowly. There's more." Xiaobao drank 2 bowls of porridge in a row before he stopped. Then he quickly turned around and crawled to Ning Shi's side to lie down. He took his mother's hand and touched his round belly. "Mommy, get up. Xiaobao is fine." Xiaobao is very obedient. Chapter 17:18. At the Guan residence. "How was it? Did you find out? What's the situation?" Mrs. Guan asked anxiously when she saw her son. Guan Xiao also looked over anxiously. "Brother, how are Xiaobao and that woman?" Mother Guan muttered with an unfriendly expression. "He's too lucky. He can even be saved in this situation." Guan Rue sat there unhurriedly. "What's the rush? Let Zihao explain." Guan Zihao took off his jacket and drank half a cup of tea. "Mom, Xiao, don't worry. Although they've been saved, there's no difference in the outcome. These 2 people are no longer a threat to us." "Not a threat? Do you mean they've been crippled by those people?" "I heard that they're all outlaws, and they're the best at torturing people." Mrs. Guan asked. "It's worse than that. That vixen has become a vegetable. As for Lu Tingxiao's illegitimate son, I asked someone in the hospital about him. They said that he was too frightened and didn't speak or drink after he woke up. He's like a wooden man, and his condition is worse than before. He's basically crippled. Guan Zihao explained to them in detail. Hearing this, Mr. Guan and Mrs. Guan were overjoyed. Are you serious? Is the news reliable? Of course it's reliable. You can prepare to visit him later and ask about the situation. Guan Zihao said confidently. Guan Ziao relaxed when she heard this, but she was still a little worried. There's still a chance that he'll wake up from a vegetable, right? Mrs. Guan was anxious too. Yes. What if that woman wakes up? That little bitch is very capable. If she wakes up and coaxes Xiaobao back to normal, wouldn't all our efforts be in vain? Guan Zihao said nonchalantly. How can a vegetable wake up so easily? Also, that woman's injuries are very serious. The chances of her waking up are very small. Even if she's lucky, it'll probably be 8 to 10 years later. Lu Tingxiao isn't stupid. Why would he waste so much time waiting for a vegetable? Even if he's willing, it depends on whether Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui are willing. I'm afraid the longer we delay, the more trouble we'll have. Guan Rui pondered, then looked at his wife and Guan Ziao and said, Ziao, go to the hospital with your mother now. First, check out the situation, and second, find out what the other side wants. Guan Ziao subconsciously touched the scratches on her body that hadn't healed yet. Her face was gloomy, and she was a little unwilling. Are we going now? But Annie Lu has such a big problem with me. Last time, Mother Guan took her daughter's hand and said, Didn't I tell you last time? This is all temporary. Once you give birth to a fat boy for the Lu family, everything will be resolved. Just bear with it for now. No matter what Yin Rui thinks, at a time like this, we have to show our stance. You have to make her believe that you didn't do it on purpose. You also feel very guilty. You can't let her think that you deliberately harmed Xiaobao. Obviously, Guan Yu's mother also knew that this was the biggest taboo of the Lu family. She absolutely cannot touch it. Otherwise, there would be no chance at all. Guan Rui nodded. Your mother is right. Ziao, go. Don't spoil the great plan if you can't bear it. At this moment, Guan Jichen rushed out of the house. I'm going to. Has that little mute become an idiot again? I want to see it. Don't be ridiculous. Why are you going? Don't agitate her again. Chapter 17-19. Capital Hospital. When the elevator door opened, Mrs. Guan and Guan Ziao stepped out and saw a person standing at the end of the corridor, wiping her tears. It was Yin Rui. Sister-in-law, are you okay? Mother Guan hurriedly greeted him with a face full of concern. Guan Ziao didn't dare to get too close. She stood behind Mrs. Guan, her pale face full of guilt. Aunt Lu, how is Xiaobao? Yin Rui quickly stopped crying and returned to normal. She looked at the two and said, Xiaobao has woken up. Fortunately, he's not injured. He's just a little frightened. Yin Rui was a completely different person from a shrew from last night. She had returned to being a noble and elegant lady from a wealthy family. Mrs. Guan and Guan Ziao looked at each other. Were they frightened? As expected, as long as she's fine, it's fine. Guan Ziao's mother patted her chest in relief. She then pulled Guan Ziao to apologize again. Sister-in-law, I'm really sorry about this. You and Brother Lu are always right to blame me. Ziao has been very upset. After she went back, she blamed herself so much that she couldn't eat or drink. She didn't even drink a sip of water. Looking at Guan Ziao's pale and haggard face, Yin Rui sighed and said, I'm the one who should apologize. I was too impulsive last night. Ziao, I'm sorry. Does your body still hurt? Seeing Yin Rui's change in attitude, Guan Ziao's eyes lit up secretly. And I'm fine. As long as you can forgive me, I'll do anything. I can help take care of Xiaobao. Yin Rui declined politely. I'm very grateful for your kindness, but there's no need. There's already someone taking care of Xiaobao. Hearing Yin Rui's evasive attitude, Mrs. Guan and Guan Ziao were even more certain that their brother was right. Mrs. Guan comforted Yin Rui. Seeing that Yin Rui's attitude had softened, she took the opportunity to test her. Sister-in-law, as the saying goes, One who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune. Now that the company is fine and Xiao Bao has been rescued, there will definitely be good fortune in the future. However, after so many things have happened, there's still some bad luck. We need some good news to wash it away. What do you think? Yen Rui froze when she heard that. She immediately understood what Mrs. Guan meant. Originally, she was thinking of finding a suitable opportunity to talk about this matter in the future, but since she had already brought it up, she didn't want to drag it on any longer. Thus, Yen Rui thought for a moment, then looked at Mother Guan and said, "Sister-in-law, the reason why I don't blame Xiao is because Xiao is not related to me in any way. I don't have the right to ask her to do anything for our Xiao Bao. Under those circumstances, if Xiao had done anything, she might have been implicated as well. Thus, I don't blame her." Hearing Yen Rui's words, Mrs. Guan's expression changed, and Guan Xiao frowned. Yen Rui seemed to want to disassociate herself from the matter. Yen Rui looked at them and continued, "And Ning Shi, it can be said that, this time, she saved Xiao Bao's life. She used her own life to exchange for it." As Yen Rui spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. She paused for a moment before she continued, "One must have a conscience. If I still misunderstood her at this point and stopped her from getting together with Ting Xiao, wouldn't that be too disappointing?" As Mrs. Guan and Guan Xiao's expressions changed slightly, Yen Rui finally said, "So, no matter what happens to this girl, and whether she can wake up or not, I'm sure she will be my daughter-in-law." Chapter 17:20. Mrs. Guan and Guan Xiao were stunned by Yen Rui's words. Their faces were filled with disbelief, as if they hadn't expected Yen Rui to say something like that. To be honest, the girl's injuries are too severe. She might not wake up for the rest of her life. Wasn't it stabbing her son in the heart for her to force him to marry another woman? How could she bear to do such a thing? Even if it wasn't for her son, she couldn't do it for Xiao Bao. Mrs. Guan had never expected that Yen Rui's attitude would change so drastically because of this incident. It took her a long time to calm down before she said, "Sister-in-law, I understand what you're thinking, but you can't let Ting Xiao marry a vegetable just because you feel guilty. You can't make a decision that could harm the child for the rest of his life." Yen Rui smiled bitterly. "If I force him to marry someone he doesn't like, I'll be harming him for the rest of his life." Yen Rui looked at Mrs. Guan apologetically and said, "Sister-in-law, you know that I've always liked Xiao. I hoped that Xiao and Ting Xiao could develop feelings for each other, but in the end, I'm also very sorry. Ting Xiao only has eyes for that girl now. Under such circumstances, it would be irresponsible for Ting Xiao to force himself to be with Xiao." Yen Rui looked at Guan Xiao and sighed. "Xiao, you're a good girl. It's our family's bad luck." Guan Xiao's face was even paler than before. She bit her lip and didn't say a word. Yen Rui would rather let Ting Xiao marry a vegetable than marry her? Ning, she was already in such a state, and she still lost to her? Was it because that woman saved Xiao Bao? Mrs. Guan was naturally anxious when she heard Yen Rui's words. "Sister-in-law, I don't think we can come to a conclusion so easily. How do you know that Xiao Bao was saved by that woman? What could she have done as a woman? She'd be lucky if she didn't get in the way." Hearing Mrs. Guan's doubts, Yen Rui's gentle expression turned ugly. "Sister-in-law, don't worry. I've investigated this matter thoroughly." Yen Rui laughed at herself in her heart. At this moment, she was unhappy that others were doubting Ning Shi, but she didn't expect that the person who had always doubted Ning Shi was herself. Mrs. Guan couldn't find any other words to refute. She could only frown and say, "Sister-in-law, I think you'd better think about this carefully. After all, this was related to the child's lifelong happiness. The child is willful, but you can't be willful with him." Yen Rui smiled. "I've been rational my whole life. Occasionally, I want to listen to my heart. Sister-in-law, Xiao, thank you for coming over. I still have to take care of Xiao Bao, so I can't accompany you any longer." It was not until Yen Rui asked them to leave that Mrs. Guan reluctantly left the hospital with Guan Xiao with a black face. After sending off Mother Guan and Guan Xiao, Yen Rui turned around and saw Lu Chongshan standing not far behind her. Yen Rui was stunned when she saw Lu Chongshan. You heard everything? Lu Chongshan didn't say anything, which could be considered as a tacit agreement. Yen Rui's expression instantly turned cold as she looked at him coldly. What? Are you going to accuse me? Lu Chongshan let out a long sigh as he looked at his wife's rare expression. In your eyes, am I really that unreasonable? Chapter 1721. Rui, you and I are the same. The reason why we didn't believe this girl back then was because of her identity as an actress. We were worried that she would be the same as that woman back then. Everything she did to Xiaobao was just a disguise and an act. Lu Chongshan shook his head and smiled bitterly. I've lived for so long, but I'm still not as smart as Ting Xiao. That kid was right. The one who harmed Xiaobao wasn't anyone else, but me, an old man who used love to protect Xiaobao. I've been living in the shadows of the past. Yen Rui closed her eyes. She was feeling the same way. So, you agree with these two kids? Yen Rui asked. Lu Chongshan fell silent and didn't reply immediately. Yen Rui looked as though she had expected it. I don't care what you think or what concerns you have. This time, I just want to stand by my son's side as a mother. Lu Chongshan stared blankly in the direction of the ward with a bitter look on his face. He was the heir, the chairman, and the head of the family. He had always done it for the greater good, for the company, for the entire family, but he had never done it for himself. It was only when he saw Xiaobao die in front of him in the video that he realized how much he had missed out on. This was his destiny. Even if he was given another chance, he would make the same choice. But he was wrong. He was too conceited, too stubborn, and too trusting of his own judgment. He had already made a mistake once, so he didn't want to make a second time. This time, he chose to believe in his son. After some time, Lu Chongshan finally said, I'm afraid it won't be easy to explain to the Guan family. I'll try my best to come up with a solution. After all, we're in the wrong. If it doesn't work, we'll give them some compensation. After understanding what Lu Chongshan meant, Yen Rui could not help but reveal a surprised expression. She didn't expect that this man, who had been stubborn and domineering his entire life, would bow his head and compromise one day at the Guan residence. What did you say? Guan Rui slammed the table and stood up after hearing his wife's explanation. Guan Zihao, who was sitting on the sofa, looked gloomy. What do they think the Guan family is? We come and go at their beck and call. Don't forget that they were the ones who begged us. Now that the company is fine, they're burning the bridge after crossing it? How could there be such a good thing? Mother Guan's face was full of anger. Isn't that so? When I heard Yen Rui's words, I almost couldn't help but curse on the spot. What did she mean by that? My daughter can't even compare to a crippled actor lying on a sickbed. The Lu family was such a bully. No matter what, I have to get back a public notice. Old Guan, say something. Guan Rui said coldly, we naturally can't let this matter go like this, but things haven't come to this, so don't panic. Right now, it's just Yen Rui's side of the story. It's inevitable that women are short-sighted and soft-hearted. Besides, her words won't be of much use. This matter still depends on Lu Chongshan's attitude. Guan Ziao frowned. I think this matter has affected Uncle Lu and Annie Lu quite a lot. What if Uncle Lu also? Guan Rui picked up his phone and made a call. I'll call Lu Chongshan now and ask both families to come out and have a good talk. I would like to personally ask Lu Chongshan what his intentions are. Chapter 1722. At the Capital Hospital, Lu Tingxiao finally walked out of the ward. Yen Rui looked at her son's haggard face and consoled him. Tingxiao, don't be too sad. Didn't you say to Xiaobao before? You have to take care of yourself. Medical science is so advanced now. Xiaoxi may have a chance to wake up. As for me and your father, although it's too late now, Mom knows it was her fault. We misunderstood her. Yen Rui was afraid that he didn't believe her, so she continued. Just now, the Guan family came. I've already made it clear to them. Your father's idea is the same. But after all, we've been friends for so many years. Your father and I did so many things behind your back and gave Ziao so much hope. We're sorry, but you don't have to worry about this. Your father and I will handle it and try not to affect the relationship between our families. Lu Chongshan also knew that with that lass's current state, with his son's temperament, he would never accept another woman. Even if time could wash away everything and he was willing to start afresh one day, who knew how long that would take? Although it was a pity that the marriage with the Guan family didn't work out, he couldn't keep delaying it. He had to make things clear. Even if we can't be in-laws, we can't be enemies. Lu Chongshan sighed and was about to continue speaking when his phone rang. Lu Chongshan frowned when he saw the caller ID. It's the Guan family. Tell them nicely, Yin Rui said hurriedly. Lu Chongshan nodded and said, Brother Guan. Guan Rui's angry voice came from the other end of the phone. Brother Lu, I understand that the Lu family is in trouble this time, and I sympathize with that girl. But there are many ways to make up to someone. You can't trade the happiness of 2 children for it. When he said 2 children, he was obviously referring to Lu Tingxiao and Guan Ziyao. Lu Chongshan had already expected Guan Rui to call him. He explained helplessly, Brother Guan, listen to me. Our Lu family has let that girl down. Now that she's in such a state, we can't just turn around and ask Tingxiao to marry someone else. No matter what, our Lu family can't do such an ungrateful thing. Besides, our Tingxiao is a righteous person. As for Ziyao, we don't want to hold her back. Guan Rui didn't expect that even Lu Chongshan would have such an attitude. He couldn't hold back his anger. Delay Ziyao? But you've already delayed her. Brother Lu, from the start, you told me that Tingxiao was just putting on a show with that woman outside, and that it wouldn't affect Ziyao. You were also the one who took the initiative to get Ziyao and Tingxiao together. After returning to the country, so many outstanding men came to our Guan family to ask for our hand in marriage. But we rejected all of them just because of a promise from you. What was the result? Now, you're telling me that you're going to break your promise for a lowly woman. Brother Lu, no matter what, Ziyao is still the apple of my eye, and I dote on her ever since she was young. Because she really likes Tingxiao, and because of the relationship between our 2 families, I turned a blind eye to the matter between Tingxiao and that woman. I even treated Xiaobao like my own grandson. But what about your Lu family? What do you think Ziyao is? An object that comes and goes at your beck and call? Your Lu family has to give us a reasonable explanation for this matter. Chapter 17:23. Lu Chongshan knew he was in the wrong, so he said in a low voice, Brother Guan, it's our fault, but it has nothing to do with Tingxiao. It's my fault as his father. I'll bear all the consequences, and I'll pay any compensation. Lu Chongshan was interrupted by his son's voice. Let me talk to Chairman Guan, Lu Tingxiao said. Lu Chongshan hesitated for a moment and then handed the phone to his son. Lu Tingxiao took the phone and said coldly, Chairman Guan. Hearing Lu Tingxiao's voice and the way he addressed him, Guan Rui sneered. Tingxiao, you're such a good boy. You don't even want to call me uncle? Lu Tingxiao's expression didn't change at all when he heard Guan Rui's sarcasm. Let's meet in the reception room on the top floor of the Capital Hospital. I'll give Chairman Guan an explanation. Guan Rui snorted. You're really sincere. You don't want to give me an explanation in person. Instead, you want me to go to the hospital. Fine, I'll be there. I want to see how the Lu family is going to explain themselves. After hanging up, Yin Rui walked over worriedly. Tingxiao, how are you going to explain yourself to the Guan family? At this moment, Lu Jingli walked out of the ward and put his arm around his mother's shoulder. Hey, Mom, why are you worrying about this? You have 2 such handsome and intelligent sons. Do you still need to worry about them? Just wait for the good show. Yin Rui glared at him and said worriedly, What good show? Don't mess around. When did I mess around? Even if you don't trust me, don't you trust my brother? You don't have to do anything anyway. You just need to be here. Lu Jingli said confidently. Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan looked at each other. They didn't know what they were going to do. However, they were relieved to see that Tingxiao wasn't dispirited and would even take the initiative to deal with the matter. Xiaobao stayed in the ward to accompany Ning Shi, and Annie looked after her. Lu Chongshan, Yin Rui, Lu Tingxiao, and Lu Jingli were preparing for the meeting with the Guan family. Half an hour later, the people from the Guan family arrived. Uncle Lu, Auntie Lu, Jingli. Guanxiao greeted them one by one before she looked at the man she had not seen for a long time. Tingxiao. Mrs. Guan was displeased with Lu Tingxiao's cold reaction. That's enough, Xiao. So what if you treat him well? Some people are still bewitched by women outside. With a little trick, they won't be able to tell north from south. As soon as Mrs. Guan finished speaking, she felt that the aura around the arrogant and distant man suddenly changed. Although it was not obvious, the invisible pressure wrapped around her like a suffocating force. Mother Guan coughed gently and said in a serious tone, Ting Xiao, it's not that I want to criticize you, but I'm getting on in years and I've seen a lot. So, I see things more clearly than you do. Look at the woman you've fallen for, then look at our Xiao. Our Xiao is a lady from a respectable family. No matter if it's her character or talent, she's the most innocent and kind. Your father and mother watch her grow up, so they know her best. Putting aside Mrs. Guan's judgment of Ning Shi, Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan were undoubtedly impressed and satisfied with Guan Xiao. At this moment, they couldn't help but look guilty. Chapter 17:24. When Guan Rui saw the guilty look on Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui's faces, he quickly added, that woman saved Xiao Bao by accident, so it's understandable that you want to make it up to her. I told you on the phone that there are many ways to make it up to her, but to let Ting Xiao marry a woman like that. I don't mean that she's in a vegetative state, but that she has a terrible reputation to begin with. That video from before was all over the internet and had a terrible impact. How could the eldest daughter-in-law of the Lu family be this kind of woman? Yin Rui furrowed her brows. I know a little about what happened that time. It was later clarified that the woman was framed and the woman in the photo was a female celebrity who had plastic surgery to look like her. At this moment, Guan Zihao spoke up. Auntie Lu, a fly doesn't bite a seamless egg. There must be something wrong with that woman. You may not pay attention to the entertainment industry, but this woman has a terrible reputation in the industry and online. She's always involved in scandals and has haters everywhere. Men of our stature can flirt with a woman like that, but they will never marry her. You must know that marrying a woman like that will cause people to gossip about you, and it may even affect the company's stocks. Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui looked solemn. Although Guan Zihao's words were harsh, they were the truth. But this time, Ningxi had saved Xiao Bao, so they were prepared to bear the consequences. Mrs. Guan was pleased with Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan's reactions, so she continued with a smug look on her face. Our Xiao likes Ting Xiao and respects him, so she doesn't mind that he has an illegitimate child. In fact, she has put in a lot of effort for this child. Did you think she studied psychology or children's education because she was interested? It's all because of Xiao Bao. But Ting Xiao had trampled all over her feelings and used a lowly actress to humiliate her. How can he face Xiao and the relationship between our two families by doing this? Now, even sister-in-law and brother Lu are hurting our hearts. Mother Guan was still talking nonstop, saying that she was wronged and that she had been betrayed. Lu Jingli, who was at the side, was bored to death and picked his ears, his face full of ridicule. Lu Tingxiao didn't interrupt the Guan family from the beginning to the end. Until now, he said expressionlessly, "Are you done?" Guan Rui snorted coldly, looking very displeased. What? Did we say a single word wrong? Now that all of us are here, what about your so-called explanation? Lu Tingxiao dialed a number and simply said 2 words on the other end of the line. Come in. In the next second, 2 cold-looking bodyguards in black threw a man in like a sack. The people of the Guan family had seen him when they came to the Lu family's house, so they all recognized him. He was the chef of the Lu family. Old master, old madam, young master. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I was blinded by lard. The chef was crying with snot and tears all over his face. He knelt in front of Lu Tingxiao and said, "Young master, please let me off. Please let me off this time. Seeing that young master didn't suffer too much, please let me off this time. The other party asked me to double the dosage, but I didn't dare to. I only smeared a little on the lunchbox. I really didn't want to hurt young master." Chapter 1725. Judging from the chef's words, he was talking about Xiaobao's food poisoning. Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan's expressions changed. They had thought that Ning Shi was the culprit, but they didn't expect that the culprit was them. It wasn't that someone had spiked the food, but that the chef had done something to Xiaobao's lunchbox. Guan Rui took a sip of tea unhurriedly and said, "So it was the chef who poisoned Xiaobao last time." Guan Zihao narrowed his eyes. "Now we're talking about our families. Why did you bring him here?" Lu Jingli smiled. "Young Master Guan, why are you in such a hurry? Take your time." Yin Rui looked at the chef and trembled with anger. "Master Chun, you've worked for our Lu family for more than 10 years, and we've treated you well. Who on earth gave you so many benefits? How could you do such a cruel and unscrupulous thing? You know that Xiaobao is my life." "Madam, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Master, I was possessed. It was that Ning Shi. That Ning, she slept with me for one night, gave me a lot of money, and coaxed me into doing these things. She said that no one would find out that I was the culprit. I couldn't resist the temptation, so I took the risk and did it." "What did you say?" Yin Rui's expression changed. Lu Chongshan's expression also froze, but he didn't react much. He just sat there quietly. Since Ting Xiao had asked Master Chen to come here, it must not be that simple. "Old madam, old master, and eldest young master, my words are absolutely true. I dare not lie to you. It was that Ning Shi who asked me to do this. If I'm lying, I'll be struck by lightning. I won't lie even if I'm 100 times more courageous." Master Chen vowed. Mrs. Guan shook her head sarcastically. "Not only did she harm a child to achieve her goal, she even slept with a chef. Just then the door opened again. A woman walked in. "Is it her?" Lu Tingxiao asked. The chef stared at the man at the door and nodded. "It's her, the superstar Ning Shi." Seeing the woman at the door, Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan were surprised. Ning Shi? How could it be? Ning Shi was still lying unconscious on the bed at this moment. Then this woman was, Yin Rui recalled. Is this woman Su Yimo who had plastic surgery to look like Ning Shi? "That's right, it's her." Lu Jingli nodded. Yin Rui patted her chest. "No wonder I thought there was something wrong with this woman's eyes. Mom, you have sharp eyes." Lu Jingli complimented. "Don't talk nonsense." "So, Su Yimo is the one behind the chef?" Yin Rui asked. At this moment, Guan Zihao said faintly, "That might not be the case. In any case, these two people looked exactly the same. Who could tell who was who? Who knows if Boss Lu deliberately framed this woman in order to clear Ningxi's name?" Mother Guan also chimed in, "You called us over, and instead of talking about proper business, you want us to see all these messy things. What is the meaning of this?" Lu Tingxiao glanced at Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli picked up his phone and played a recording. The following recording might not be suitable for children, but thankfully, none of us are underage. Chapter 1726. The moment Lu Jingli turned on the recording, the room was filled with the sound of a man and a woman's heavy breathing and bodies colliding. Even though they could only hear their voices, everyone present was an adult. They could immediately tell what the two of them were doing. "Damn you! Why are you playing this?" Yin Rui glared at Lu Jingli. At first, Guan Zihao thought it was a farce, but after a while, his expression suddenly changed. He looked at Su Yimo in disbelief. Just as Yin Rui was about to stop Lu Jingli, a familiar voice came from the phone. "Tisk, so absent-minded. What? You can't deal with me now that you've hooked up with Lu Tingxiao? Make it clear, you're just a fake. Do you really think you can replace the real one? Apart from your face, you don't even deserve to carry Ning Shi's shoes. I've already done what you asked me to do. In order to frame Ning Shi, I slept with so many people, even a disgusting chef. Why won't you let me go? I don't want to work for you anymore." "Yo, Lu Tingxiao treated you nicely and didn't kill you this time. Do you really want to use your face to climb up the ladder? Can't wait to kick me away? Let me tell you, you can't. I spent so much money to make you look like this. Do you want to run away so easily? Lu Tingxiao has already found out about my existence. Everyone knows that I got plastic surgery to look like Ning Shi. I've already been exposed. I can't do anything for you anymore, and you better not come looking for me again. If Lu Tingxiao finds out, don't blame me for not warning you." The sound of a man and a woman panting could be heard again, but it was enough. The voice in the recording was Guan Zihao. The room was dead silent. Obviously, such a private recording could only be recorded by the person involved. "Bitch, how dare you?" Guan Zihao glared at Su Yimo and blurted out. Then he suddenly shut his mouth, realizing that he had been exposed. Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui had never thought that everything, from Ningxi being framed to Xiaobao being poisoned, was actually done by Guan Zihao. The two of them stared at the young man in front of them, who was a member of the Guan family, in a daze for a long time. Guan Xiao twisted her fingers in panic and looked at her brother in disbelief. She had repeatedly urged him to do this well, and this was what he did? To Su Yimo's bed? He even left behind such a huge weakness. Was it because Su Yimo had a pretty face? Even her own brother could not resist the temptation. For a moment, Guan Xiao's face was extremely gloomy. "It's over. Everything is over." Lu Jingli raised his eyebrows. "Young Master Guan, do you have anything else to say?" Lu Chongshan's fingers trembled. "Zihao, you actually..." Without waiting for Lu Chongshan to speak, Guan Rui suddenly pushed his chair away, stood up, and slapped Guan Zihao's face. "Bastard! How could you do such a thing?" After Guan Rui slapped Guan Zihao, he immediately turned to Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui and said, "Brother Lu, sister-in-law, his mother, and I didn't know anything about this, and Xiao didn't know anything. I didn't expect him to do such a thing behind our backs." Zihao is still young and impetuous. He saw that Xiao was wronged and was so angry that he did such a thing and even hurt Xiaobao. That's definitely not his intention. Chapter 17:27. Lu Jingli was amused. "You specifically told me to double the dosage. Wasn't that your intention?" Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything, but stood up and left for Ningxi's ward. He didn't want to waste any time on other things. Lu Jingli picked up his cell phone with a smile and clicked on another recording. "Stop acting. I think you can compete for the Oscars." It was Mrs. Guan's voice in this recording. "Damn it. Yin Rui is a daughter of a rich family. She is not a lady. She is a shrew. Look at how badly she beat our Xiao. She is so cruel. Forget it. Her only precious grandson is dead. It's normal for her to be a little crazy." Then it was Guan Rui's voice. Hearing this, Mrs. Guan and Guan Rui's faces turned pale. What frightened them even more was the words that came after that. "Silly girl. She is just sad because she lost her grandson. She wants you to give her another one. That's why I said Lu Tingxiao's illegitimate son can't be kept. The Lu family values this child too much. If we leave the family property to him, we will suffer a great loss by marrying the Lu family. Even if he doesn't die this time, we will find a way to get rid of him in the future. Mother is right. Don't worry. Let's go back and celebrate tonight. Tomorrow we will hear the good news about the little bastard." Yin Rui simply couldn't believe that the family that she had always treated as family had such sinister intentions. The entire family was so malicious. "Guan Rui, I've been treating you as a good brother for so many years, but you..." Lu Chongshan covered his chest and couldn't even say a word. Fortunately, they were in the hospital and Lu Tingxiao seemed to be prepared. Immediately, a doctor came in and did emergency treatment to stabilize Lu Chongshan's condition. He had always regarded Xiaobao as his good brother and best friend. He had always thought that Xiaobao was a good daughter-in-law. He had always stubbornly believed that the Guan family was very close to each other. Most importantly, they would never hurt Xiaobao. Just now, they had said how much they loved Xiaobao and treated him as their own grandson. But what about in private? Even before marrying into the family, he was already thinking of ways to kill Xiaobao and seize the family property. Yin Rui even thought to herself in shock, was Guan Xiao really in a daze at that time? Or was it intentional? This thought made her hair stand on end. The facts proved that they were wrong, gravely wrong. The ones who were truly unable to read people well were them, and the ones who almost caused Little Bao's death were also them. They were simply pushing Xiao Bao into a fire pit. They had been feeling guilty because of the failure of this marriage, thinking about how to make up for it, but the other party was thinking about how to celebrate when their family was in trouble. Guan Rui's eyes were filled with malice when he saw that everything had been exposed, and he said coldly, "Brother Lu, don't blame me. You can only blame your son for being blind. He gave up such an outstanding daughter like me, and just had to fancy a lowly actress. Ask yourself honestly, how perfect would it be if our two families united by marriage? As for Xiao Bao, as long as you make Ziyao's child the heir, we naturally won't make things difficult for a child. It's not too late to regret it now." You shut up." Lu Chongshan was panting angrily when Xing Wu's panicked voice suddenly came from outside the door. "Master, madam, second young master, go out and have a look. Bad news. Bad news." A lot of people in army uniforms suddenly came and said they wanted to take Miss Xiaoxi away. Chapter 1729. At the end of the corridor, a spirited old man with white hair walked over with the help of Zhuang Liaoyuan. On the other side of the old man stood a tall and slender boy who was glaring at the people of the Lu family with a pair of eyes as bright as the sun. Seeing that not only Zhuang Liaoyuan, but also the old commander Zhuang Zongren came, Lu Chongshan had to restrain his cold expression. "Commander Zhuang, why did you come in person?" At this moment, the people of the Guan family who were hiding in the corner all froze when they heard Zhuang Zongren call Ning Shuyan's granddaughter. "Granddaughter? What granddaughter? Ning Shi is Zhuang Zongren's granddaughter." Mrs. Guan murmured in disbelief. Guan Ziao turned pale. "That's impossible. How could Ningxi be Zhuang Zongren's granddaughter?" Suddenly, she thought of something and suddenly stopped talking. She looked at her father stiffly. "Dad, according to the information you found, what's the name of Ningxi's mother? Is it his surname?" Guan Rui's face darkened. "Yes, her surname is Zhuang Lingyu." Guan Zihao opened his mouth, and it took him a long time to come to his senses. Ning Yaohua's wife is the daughter of the Zhuang family? How is that possible? I've never heard of it. Guan Rui pinched between his eyebrows. After all, we haven't been in the capital for many years, and we don't know a lot of information. Besides, I didn't investigate further after I found out that Ningxi's biological father was Ning Yaohua, so there might be some omissions. I'm afraid Zhuang Lingyu's identity is not simple. After all, General Zhuang Zongren had come to say that Ningxi was his granddaughter. It couldn't be false. Hearing her father's words, Guan Ziao was stunned, and a trace of despair flashed across her eyes. She stood there stiffly and stared at the scene in front of her. It was impossible. It was impossible. She still had a glimmer of hope. Ningxi had become a vegetable. No matter how guilty the Lu family was, no matter how much Lu Tingxiao liked this woman, he wouldn't wait for her forever. Besides, the illegitimate son had failed this time and might make a comeback at any time. The Lu family was still in danger, so the Guan family still had a chance to make a comeback. She thought that one day, he would realize that she was the most suitable person for him. One day, the Lu family would also realize the truth and choose benefits, but she never expected that Ning Shi's grandfather was Zhuang Zongren. What kind of family was the Zhuang clan? Their clan had been involved in politics for generations, and they were the #1 clan in the imperial city. They were not something they could compare to. In terms of background and history, even the Lu clan would have to bow down to the Zhuang clan. If I hadn't come here, my granddaughter would have been killed. In the face of Zhuang Zongren's rebuke, Lu Chongshan didn't dare to say no. He knew he was in the wrong, so he softened his voice and explained, "General Zhuang, Miss Ning was seriously injured for the sake of the Lu family. She was injured to save Xiao Bao. The entire Lu family is very grateful to Miss Ning. Now we have invited the top experts to treat her and try our best to save her. Anyway, the Lu family will definitely take responsibility for this matter. Please rest assured." Before Zhuang Zongren could speak, Zhuang Ronwang couldn't help cursing. Chapter 17:30. The teenager's eyes were full of anger, and his chest was heaving violently with anger. Nonsense. My cousin has been harmed by your Liu family's people. How dare you take advantage of her? Do you really think that my cousin has no one to back her up? Let me tell you, we must take my cousin away today. Otherwise, if she continues to stay here, who knows what will happen to her? Your Liu family is not a good person. Zhuang Ronguang took the opportunity to sneak home today when the army went out to buy things. He didn't expect to hear the conversation between his father and grandfather. And then he learned that sister she had been hurt. What was more surprising was that sister, she was really his sister, his cousin. Damn, he knew it. Why was sister she so awesome? It turned out that she was a member of the Zhuang family. So he decisively followed his father and grandfather to the hospital to pick up sister she. Now his sister and mother were still waiting for their news at home. This time, he must save sister she. His father and grandfather were too proud to say something, so he just scolded them. Anyway, he was a playboy. If it weren't for brother Shi, he would still be fighting and picking up girls. After hearing his son's angry scolding, Zhuang Liaoyuan just gave him a warning look, but there was no blame in his eyes. Obviously, he was also extremely dissatisfied with the Liu family. Liu Chongshan's face darkened under the scolding, but he could only bear it and continued to say humbly, I misunderstood Miss Ning in the past. It's really my fault. Here, I solemnly apologize. Miss Ning saved our Xiaobao this time and is a great benefactor of our Liu family. I will do everything I can to make it up to her. How can I hurt her? Old Leader Zhuang and Major General Zhuang, please believe that we are really sincere in making it up to her. You may know a person's face, but you don't know his heart, Zhuang Ronguang said grumpily. At this time, Zhuang Liaoyuan, who had been silent, said, Chairman Liu, there's no need to make it up to her. Cici is kind by nature, and I believe that she is willing to save people. It has nothing to do with anyone, and we don't need to make it up to her. Now, as Cici's family, we just want to take her away instead of asking outsiders to take care of her. I believe Chairman Liu won't mind this request, will you? Zhuang Liaoyuan's words were flawless, blocking all of Liu Chongshan's excuses with a single sentence. She didn't need your compensation now, and, as Ningxi's family, it was no problem for her to take Ningxi away. Therefore, Liu Chongshan and Yin Rui looked at each other and were suddenly in a dilemma. Judging from the Zhuang family's attitude, once they took Ningxi away, they would never allow the Liu family to have any contact with Ningxi. His son was dead set on this girl, and Xiaobao couldn't leave her even for a moment. What if they really took Ningxi away? Who is it? How sneaky? Come out. Zhuang Ronguang's gaze sharpened. He suddenly leaped behind them and pulled one of them out of the reception room. It hurts. Let go. Let go. Guan Zihao screamed in pain. His parents and Guan Ziao also ran out and snatched him from Zhuang Ronguang's hands. Liu Chongshan's face turned even uglier when he saw that the people from the Guan clan had not left and had been discovered by the Zhuang clan. The Zhuang family was already dissatisfied with him, and now they might misunderstand. Sure enough, Zhuang Liaoyuan glanced at those people, and his eyes became colder. Cici is in a coma now, and her life is uncertain, but you still brought these people to her. How sincere you are. Chapter 17:31. Zhuang Ronguang twisted Guan Zihao and kicked him to the ground. He was so angry that he was about to explode. What are you thanking me for? What sincerity? It's all bullshit. My cousin isn't dead yet. You're already looking for someone else for your son. Are we going to bow to the heaven and earth in front of her ward to get married? Guan Zihao's wrist was almost broken. He screamed in pain. No, it's none of our business. The Liu family went back on their word and called us over to call off the engagement. What? Break off the engagement? Not only the Zhuang family, but Liu Chongshan and Yin Rui were also stunned. Guan Rui deliberately glanced at the Zhuang family and looked disappointed. He said sarcastically, I was wondering why Brother Liu was so heartless all of a sudden. So that's why. Mrs. Guan took the opportunity to shout shrilly, Liu Chongshan, I say, you were so serious about it. Why did you suddenly want to break off the engagement with our family? You've climbed up the social ladder. You're the granddaughter of the Zhuang family in the capital. Of course, a small family like ours can't compare to you. Lu Chongshan, you're really scheming. Seeing the Guan family talking nonsense, and Guan Ziao standing there with an aggrieved expression, as if the Lu family had really betrayed her, Lu Chongshan was so angry that he almost had a relapse again. At this moment, he had seen through the Guan family's true colors. Yin Rui immediately stood up and slapped Mrs. Guan's face. This slap is for my Xiaobao. As soon as she finished speaking, she slapped her again. This slap is for Xiaoxi. Chongshan and I have always treated the Guan family as friends and trusted your family's character and upbringing. We even tried to matchmake Ting Xiao with your daughter despite the fact that Ting Xiao already had someone he liked. But you guys, it wasn't until today, until Ting Xiao took out the evidence and exposed everything. Only then did I realize that the people Chongshan and I trusted all these years and treated as family were actually a family of jackals and wolves. You claim that you're innocent and kind, but you've done all kinds of dirty things behind my back. You've framed Xiaoxi, hurt Xiaobao, and you've already planned how to seize the Lu family's property before marrying me. Now you're slandering me for having an engagement with the Guan family? Back then, when the Lu family was in trouble, I did hope that the two families could unite through marriage as soon as possible. Not only did I hide it from Ting Xiao, I even tried to find a girl for him. I even paid a few visits to the Lu family's residence to ask for their opinion. But what was your attitude? Seeing that the Lu family situation wasn't looking good, they kept pushing all sorts of excuses. Now that the company's problems have been solved and Xiaoxi almost sacrificed her life to save Xiaobao, you want to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Do you really think that the entire Lu family is a fool? Let me tell you, not to mention that girl is unconscious right now. Even if she never wakes up, Yin Rui, will only recognize her as my daughter-in-law. Yin Rui's words echoed in the hallway for a long time. Lu Jingli was flabbergasted and simply gasped in amazement. Fuck! His mother's combat power was off the charts today. After all, his mother cared about her image the most. She was gentle, and she rarely spoke loudly. But now, she was so powerful. Sure enough, the saying was true. Women are weak, but mothers are strong. Do you want me to show you the dirty evidence in front of Chief Zhuang and old General Zhuang? Yin Rui scolded coldly, and then looked at her youngest son, Jingli. Chapter 1732. Receiving the order, Lu Jingli immediately clicked on the recording. As soon as the recording rang, the Guan family people's faces changed. Before the Zhuang family people could react, they hurriedly snatched Guan Zihao from Zhuang Rongwang's hands and ran away without saying a word. Zhuang Rongwang was furious when he heard the recording. These bastards, they were the masterminds behind the case of Sister Shi being framed, which had caused a huge uproar some time ago. Zhuang Rongwang was about to chase them, but then remembered that he had more important things to do today, so he held back. Forget it, there was no hurry. These people would have plenty of time to deal with them later. Now you know what's good for you. What were you doing before? Zhuang Rongwang muttered and snorted. I think among the Lu family people, only the guy my sister fell in love with has better eyesight. Lu Jingli hurriedly raised his eyebrows and pointed at himself. This guy has better eyesight. I've always supported my brother and sister-in-law. Please call me the second godly assistant. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, Zhuang Liaoyuan looked a little relieved. As for what the Guan family said about the Lu family, Zhuang Liaoyuan knew it was impossible. Because his father still couldn't let go of Ling Yu's affair, he only took care of Cece in private, but didn't officially acknowledge her as his child. And because of his prejudice against Lu Tingxiao, he didn't want Cece to be with that boy. So even though he knew the situation of the Lu family and that Cece was facing a difficult situation, he didn't show up and hoped that she would retreat, which led to this result. For this matter, they also had a lot of responsibility. Cece had helped them so many times, but they couldn't do anything for her. After the Guan family people fled, Yin Rui walked up to Zhuang Liaoyuan and Zhuang Zhongren and said sincerely, "Old Chief Zhuang, Major General Zhuang, it's all our fault as parents. We didn't know the right person and kept misunderstanding Cici. We tried to stop Ting Xiao from being with that girl again and again. But our Ting Xiao is absolutely sincere to Cici. No matter how hard we tried to persuade him, his love for Xiaoxi never wavered. Whether it was the previous blind date or the marriage proposal with the Guan family, it was decided by his father and me against his will." Lu Chongshan closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. "Back then, I strongly opposed them being together. I told Ting Xiao that as the leader of the company and the head of the family, choosing a wife wasn't something he could decide alone. At that time, Ting Xiao told me that apart from his mother and I, no one else could influence his decision." Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's eyes changed, and Zhuang Zhongren also pondered, looking a bit emotional. In fact, after calming down and thinking about it, she remembered that Lu Tingxiao and the others had met him several times and had even come to their home for dinner. At that time, from the way he got along with Xiaoxi, she could tell that the child was indeed sincere to Xiaoxi. Zhuang Liaoyuan's prejudice against him mainly stemmed from the grievances his family had caused Xiaoxi. As Lu Chongshan said this, his eyes turned red and his voice trembled. "Ting Xiao is a very filial child. He has been looking for a way to satisfy both sides. In fact, his mother and I had been swayed by him and were ready to let nature take its course. But we didn't expect that the Lu family would be in such turmoil. Just 7 days ago, Ting Xiao told me that he could solve all this and made an appointment with me in 7 days. But I didn't believe him. It's my fault." Chapter 1733. Zhuang Liaoyuan pondered for a moment, exchanged a look with his father next to him, and then considered his words and said, "We don't want to interfere in the affairs of your Lu family. The point is, things have become like this. No matter what we say, Cici won't wake up. Now, we just want to take her back. Lin Xian, go pick up Mississippi." Before Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui could speak, Zhuang Liaoyuan had already raised his men and ordered them to take her away today. Yes. After the young officer received the order, he immediately led a team of people, including professional medical personnel who were already prepared, and walked straight to the door of the ward. The doctors and nurses on the side were intimidated by the hostility of these soldiers. They all cowered to the side, and no one dared to step forward to stop them. The young officer named Lin Xian strode to the door of the ward and was about to push it open. Suddenly, the door of the ward was pulled open from the inside. A tall, cold-faced man in a black suit stood at the door. Glancing around, the powerful aura of a man who had been in a superior position for a long time and the murderous aura that could only be acquired by fighting on thousands of battlefields suddenly burst out. Out of his sharp intuition for danger, Lin Xian immediately touched the weapon at his waist vigilantly and stopped, not daring to go forward. Seeing Lu Tingxiao appear, Zhuang Liaoyuan's aura also suddenly became cold. The two men, standing opposite each other, their auras were equally strong. For a moment, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Zhuang Liaoyuan's thin lips tightened into a straight line and said in an extremely cold voice, "Lu Tingxiao, I didn't agree to let you be together before, because I know very well that Cici is too naive and your family is not suitable for her. And it turns out that all of this has come true. This kind of situation has happened once, and it may happen again. I just hate that I didn't stop it in time and let this happen. I just watch her become like this. So, I'm sorry, but today I have to take her away. Whether Cici is good or bad in the future, it has nothing to do with your Lu family." Zhuang Ronguang nodded repeatedly and echoed, "Yes, I've long felt that you're not worthy of my cousin. My cousin is so beautiful and good. She could marry anyone. Why would she marry someone like you, who has a burden on her? Now, in order to save your son, my cousin almost lost her life. Isn't that enough?" Zhuang Zhongren stood at the side without saying a word, but he obviously agreed with Zhuang Liaoyuan's words. Obviously, he had made up his mind to keep his granddaughter away from the Lu family. Lu Tingxiao did not reply to Zhuang Liaoyuan and Zhuang Ronguang. Instead, he looked at Zhuang Zhongren and asked, "Old Chief Zhuang, may I have a word with you?" Zhuang Ronwang panicked. "What do you mean, Baro? What else was there to say?" "You should just take your son and find some rich young lady to be his stepmother. Don't harm my cousin anymore." Zhuang Zhongren looked at the young man in front of him with a cold expression, but the young man's eyes did not waver in the slightest. After a while, Zhuang Zhongren said, "Okay, Grandpa." Zhuang Zhongren raised his hand to silence his grandson. Then, he followed Lu Tingxiao to the end of the corridor, not far away, to speak in private. Zhuang Ronwang paced back and forth anxiously. "Dad, why didn't you stop him just now? What if that fellow's glib tongue bewitches grandfather?" Zhuang Liao Yuan squinted at his son. "Is your grandfather that easy to bewitch?" Zhuang Ronwang scratched his head. "That's true." Chapter 1734. Zhuang Ronwang snorted and secretly rubbed his palms. "Grandpa, don't be polite. Beat him to death." Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui looked at each other and felt uneasy. The Zhuang family was so determined. Could Ting Xiao really persuade the old leader? What if he failed? What about Xiao Bao at the end of the corridor? Zhuang Zhongren looked cold and determined. "What do you want to say? Say it now. But I want to make it clear in advance that no matter what you say, I will take she away today. Because of my hesitation, I had already made a mistake once, so I absolutely couldn't let her be hurt again." Ronwang's words were harsh, but reasonable. "She doesn't need you to make it up to her, nor does she need your meaningless guilt. You can take the child and start over. But she..." Lu Tingxiao said, "Xiao Bao is Ningxi's and my biological child." Zhuang Zhongren's words were stuck in his throat. He stared at the young man in front of him in astonishment. "What did you just say?" "Xiao Bao is Ningxi's and my biological child," Lu Tingxiao repeated. Even though Zhuang Zhongren had been through a lot, it took him a long time to react. You mean Xiao Bao is she's biological child?" "Yes. Xiao Bao is Ningxi's biological son and your great-grandson," Lu Tingxiao answered. Ningxi, Zhuang Ku'er, and Zhuang Ronwang of the Zhuang family were mostly unmarried. Those who were married were busy with their careers and did not have children. Therefore, Zhuang Zhongren did not have any grandchildren of the same generation. He had always been very regretful about this. He wondered if he could hold the fourth generation of the Zhuang family before he died. But now, Lu Tingxiao suddenly told him that he had a great-grandson. How? How could he not be shocked? Apart from shock, he couldn't suppress his excitement. "Brat from the Lu family, are you serious? You're not lying to me?" Zhuang Zhongren asked seriously. Lu Tingxiao's face didn't change at all. "I've done a paternity test for Xiao Bao and Ningxi in the capital military hospital. If you don't believe me, you can ask Dr. Zheng in the capital military hospital. You have a good relationship with him. I think you must believe his words. Even if there is no paternity test, based on your judgment, don't you think Xiao Bao is a member of the Zhuang family?" The old commander said without thinking, "This child is so good at shooting and is even more talented than Ronguang. What's so strange about him?" After Zhuang Zhongren finished speaking, he realized that he seemed to have fallen into Lu Tingxiao's trap, but he couldn't care about this. He repeatedly recalled the brief contact he had with Xiao Bao, and the more he thought about it, the more shocked he was. Similar, very similar. No wonder I felt that Xiao Bao and little she were too similar at that time. Lu Tingxiao frowned and nodded. "Yes, Xiaoxi doesn't know yet. This matter is very complicated. On the one hand, it's because of my selfishness. On the other hand, there are too many doubts about what happened that year. I dare not act rashly in case I alert the enemy." Lu Tingxiao frowned and nodded. "Yes, Xiaoxi doesn't know yet. This matter is very complicated. On the one hand, it's because of my selfishness. On the other hand, there are too many doubts about what happened back then. I don't dare to act rashly so as not to alert the enemy. This is not the place to talk. I will explain the situation to you in detail later. However, before I find out everything, I hope you can keep this matter a secret for the time being." Zhuang Zhongren nodded solemnly. "I know what I'm doing." After that, he asked anxiously, "Where is Xiao Bao now?" Chapter 1735. Xiao Bao is accompanying Cici in the ward. Lu Tingxiao answered and then continued. This incident caused a great shock to the child, because he was too guilty and couldn't face the fact that Cici died to save him. Xiao Bao couldn't hear anyone after he woke up. He didn't eat or drink or say a word. Zhuang Zhongren's face tightened. How could this be? How is the child now? Later, I told him that Xiaoxi was in a coma and Mom needed him, so he slowly recovered and stayed by her side all the time. Xiao Bao can't leave Mom now, and I believe that Xiao Bao is the most likely person to wake Cici up. Zhuang Zhongren, who was just scowling at Lu Tingxiao, nodded repeatedly. Yes, you're right. Xiao Bao and Cici can't be separated at this time. Zhuang Zhongren looked at Lu Tingxiao and asked, what do you think? Lu Tingxiao paused and then made a suggestion. Elder Zhuang, with your connections, you can get better medical conditions than me. So, I agree with you taking Cici away. Hearing Lu Tingxiao's words, Zhuang Zhongren realized that he didn't want Ningxi to stay like their parents. Immediately, the last bit of anger in his heart disappeared, and he showed a satisfied look. At least you know what's good for you. But Xiao Bao and Cici can't be separated, so why don't you let Xiao Bao go with you? Zhuang Zhongren couldn't have asked more. Let Xiao Bao go with me? That would be great. But can you make the decision? Lu Tingxiao nodded. My parents will agree. You can rest assured. Zhuang Zhongren immediately made the decision. Well, it's settled then. Not far away, Zhuang Rongwang was a little anxious when he saw his grandfather talking with them for so long. With their backs to them, they couldn't hear their voices or see their expressions, so they didn't know what they were talking about for so long. He was thinking about whether to sneak over and eavesdrop when the two people at the end of the corridor finally came back. Grandpa, you're back. You didn't hear this guy's sweet talk, did you? Zhuang Rongwang hurriedly greeted him with an expectant look. Zhuang Zhongren glared at his grandson. What nonsense are you talking about? Zhuang Rongwang massaged his shoulders fawningly. I knew you wouldn't. Can we take cousin away now? Zhuang Zhongren nodded. Yes, of course we have to take them away. Zhuang Rongwang was overjoyed, but Lu Chongshan and Yen Rui were anxious. Lin Xian. Just as Zhuang Liaoyuan was about to order his men to go in and bring them back, Zhuang Zhongren interrupted him discontentedly. Wait, don't move. Everyone retreat. There are so many of you. What if you scare them? I'll go myself. Zhuang Liaoyuan frowned, while Zhuang Rongwang was confused. Scared? Sister, she is unconscious. Who was he trying to scare? Since Zhuang Zhongren personally went over, no one dared to stop him. Then everyone saw Zhuang Zhongren walking towards Ningxi's ward with a cold expression. After entering the ward, they saw a soft little guy lying in front of Ningxi's bed. He put his little hand in his mother's palm and stared at her without blinking, as if he was afraid that she would disappear. It was as if he and his mother were the only things in the world. Zhuang Zhongren was moved. His eyes were slightly wet, and he tried to speak softly, as if he was afraid of disturbing the little guy. Xiao Bao, come, cough, cough to Grandpa Zhuang. Chapter 1736. The little fellow seemed to have sensed that there was an intruder. His expression of attachment to his mother suddenly changed. His soft and adorable little face froze into ice, and his sharp gaze swept over the other people in the ward. He was like a little beast that had suddenly revealed its claws. Although he was young, his aura was not weak at all. Click, click. Suddenly, there was a strange sound similar to metal rubbing against each other. A row of robots suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the suite. Their mechanical bodies glowed with a cold light, and the black ports on their iron arms were uniformly aimed at the intruders. Oh my God, where did Xiao Bao get these things? Lu Jingli was so scared that he almost covered his head and scurried away. He hurriedly looked for something to cover himself in case he was accidentally injured by the stench. The Zhuang family and the military officers outside the door were all surprised to see those neat and uniform robots that were obviously controlled by someone. Zhuang Rongwang's eyes almost popped out. So cool. These robots can't be controlled by this little brat, right? Looking closely, there was indeed a black thing that looked like a controller in Xiao Bao's palm. Little brat. Who are you calling a little brat? Zhuang Zongren slapped Zhuang Ronguang's head hard as soon as he finished speaking. Zhuang Ronguang immediately hugged his head in a daze. Grandpa, why did you hit me? Zhuang Zongren glared at him, then looked at the little fellow who was guarding Ning Shi with admiration. His tone became even more gentle and loving. Xiao Bao, don't be nervous. Don't be afraid. We won't hurt her. We're here to help her. Xiao Bao's expression didn't change at all. His face was full of vigilance as he used his small body to shield Ning Shi. The robots were still in standby mode. Zhuang Zongren revealed a helpless expression. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao walked past the robots and walked in front of Xiao Bao. He squatted down and said to Xiao Bao, "Do you want mommy to get better soon?" The little fellow's attention was immediately attracted by this sentence, and he looked at Lu Tingxiao. Thus, Lu Tingxiao continued, "You've met this Grandpa Zhuang before. Mommy was also there at that time. Do you remember?" Hearing his mother, Xiao Bao thought seriously for a moment and then nodded. Seeing that the little fellow still remembered him, Zhuang Zongren immediately had a gratified expression. Grandpa Zhuang is Mom's friend. He can send Mom to a better hospital, Lu Tingxiao said. When the little fellow heard this, although she relaxed a little, she still had no intention of giving way. "Can you accompany me and go with Grandpa Zhuang?" Only when Lu Tingxiao said this did Xiao Bao completely relax, and then he nodded. At the same time, the robots blocking in front of the bed also retracted the weapons on their arms, divided into 2 rows, and retreated, opening a path. Seeing this, Lu Jingli patted his chest and walked out from behind the door. He was a little confused. What was going on? His brother not only asked the Zhuang family to take Cici away, but also asked them to take Xiao Bao away? Wasn't this the same as losing the wife and losing the son? At this time, Zhuang Zongren took a deep breath and tried to speak again. "Little treasure, come to Grandpa Zhuang, okay?" Little Bao hesitated for a moment before he finally walked over to Zhuang Zongren. Zhuang Zongren looked at the little child's determination to protect his mother. He watched as the child walked toward him with uncertainty and looked back every few steps. His heart ached, and he carefully picked up the little fellow. After comforting Xiao Bao, Zhuang Zongren ordered the accompanying medical staff to transfer the patient. Chapter 1737. Zhuang Zongren held the soft little guy in his arms and coaxed him very patiently. "Xiao Bao, don't be afraid. Come home with Grandpa. Grandpa will take good care of your mother. Grandpa also promises you that no one will separate Xiao Bao and Mom. Xiao Bao can always stay by Mom's side." Xiao Bao looked at the kind old man in front of him. His vigilant little face softened a lot, and he nodded obediently. Seeing that the little guy responded to his words and even nodded, Zhuang Zongren was simply overjoyed. Okay, let's go home now." Zhuang Zongren was very strict with his children and juniors. In addition, he had been in a high position for most of his life. He had always been a serious and old-fashioned person. Usually, it was rare for him to smile in front of the juniors. But at this moment, he was simply unbelievably gentle to Xiao Bao. Zhuang Ronguang was dumbfounded to see his grandfather holding Xiao Bao lovingly. He hurried to Zhuang Zongren. "Grandpa, what's wrong with you? It's fine if you take cousin away. But why do you even bring this little brat and this little brat along? Why do you bring him along for no reason? What happened to cutting off all relations with the Lu family? What's wrong with this little brat?" Zhuang Zongren patted Xiao Bao's back and coaxed him while glaring at Zhuang Ronguang. "Do I need your permission to do things? Don't make a fuss here. You're already here. Hurry up and go back to the army. Damn, you want to take this little brat home, but you want to drive me away. Am I still your grandson?" Zhuang Ronguang felt so wronged. "Dad, do you still care about this?" Zhuang Liaoyuan pursed his thin lips and didn't say a word. He glanced in the direction of Lu Tingxiao with a gloomy expression. He didn't know what this brat said to his father. Actually, his father insisted on taking the child along with him. The point was not to take the child with him. But after this child was taken away, he would definitely have a bad relationship with the Liu family. Damn it, I still underestimated this brat. I will transfer Xiao Bao to the military sanatorium in the suburbs of the capital. As for Xiao Bao, I feel sorry for him because he is young and has a good relationship with Xiao Bao. I can't leave her now, so I will take him along. Do you have any objections? Zhuang Zongren looked at Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui. Although Zhuang Zongren's tone was inquiring, he didn't loosen his grip on Xiao Bao in the slightest. Clearly, he had already made up his mind. Lu Chongshan and Yan Rui looked at each other. They did not expect things to turn out this way and were caught in a dilemma. It was good that Xiao Bao and Ning Shi were not separated, but to let the Zhuang family take Xiao Bao away, why? Are you worried that the Zhuang family will harm your grandson? Zhuang Zongren's face turned serious. Lu Chongshan glanced at his son. He knew that this was the best outcome his son could hope for. Ting Xiao must have his reasons for doing this. Moreover, a family like the Zhuang clan would definitely take good care of Xiao Bao, since they had taken him in. Their worries were unnecessary. Lu Chongshan hesitated for a moment before saying, Elder Zhuang, you're being too serious. We're just worried that Xiao Bao will cause you too much trouble. Not at all. Zhuang Zongren immediately made the decision. Since there are no objections, then this matter is decided. Fuck. I have no opinion no matter who says it. Zhuang Ronwang's voice was completely ignored. Chapter 1738. Lu Tingxiao personally escorted her all the way to the military sanatorium in the suburbs of the capital. The sanatorium here was only accessible to the country's senior leaders or their family members. All the medical facilities were top-notch, and most importantly, there were elite troops stationed nearby, so it was absolutely safe and secretive. Lu Tingxiao bent over and planted a kiss on the girl's forehead. After staring at her for a long time, he stood up and said to his son, Xiao Bao, stay with Mom and listen to Uncle Zhuang and Grandpa Zhuang, okay? Xiao Bao stood there with his head lowered and didn't say a word. I'm leaving. Xiao Bao still didn't move or respond. Lu Tingxiao sighed inaudibly, patted the little boy's head with his broad palm, and turned to leave. He had only taken a few steps when one of his legs suddenly gave way. Lu Tingxiao looked down and saw his son hugging him tightly, looking up at him without making a sound, but his little face was already full of tears. Yes, he hated Dad. He had always hated him, but he didn't want Dad to leave. Looking at his son's crying face, Lu Tingxiao felt as if his heart had been gnawed by countless aphids. He hurriedly squatted down and held his son's little body in his arms. Learning from Ning Shi's usual way of comforting Xiao Bao, he patted him gently in a flurry. Don't cry. What's wrong? Zhuang Zongren, who was standing at the door, felt a slight sting in his eyes. He hurriedly walked over and comforted him. Xiao Bao, don't cry, don't cry. It's not like Dad won't come back after leaving. Your dad can come and visit you and Mom at any time. Grandpa promises. Sigh. He was still a child after all. He had just experienced such a huge blow. His mother, who was closest to him, might never wake up again in order to save him. Now that his father was about to leave, how could he not panic when he was suddenly in a completely unfamiliar environment? Looking at the little boy crying silently, Zhuang Zongren was so distressed that he didn't know what to do. He blurted outside that, Tingxiao, why don't you stay here for the night? This suite is very big, and it's big enough for you to stay. Stay with Xiao Bao until he gets used to the environment. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. What's more important than a child? Do you hear me? Lu Tingxiao was at a loss as to what to do with Xiao Bao. He nodded subconsciously. Yes. Not only did he bring the child with him, but now he even allowed Lu Tingxiao to visit at will and even let him stay. Zhuang Liao Yuan, who was at the door, couldn't get a word in. Before he could stop it, he had already watched the situation develop to this point. He sighed helplessly with a dark face. Lu Tingxiao left the next morning. When he returned to the Platinum Gold Rank Palace, there were already 5 skinny men in black uniforms waiting in the study room. Unlike the 5 of them, Tang Lang was dressed in colorful clothes. His hair was messy and curly. He was lying on the sofa, casually. He looked rather dispirited. In front of the desk, the man spoke with a frosty expression. Tang Lang will be the commander-in-chief of this operation. Do you have any objections? The five of them answered in unison. Tang Lang raised his hand, the corners of his mouth twitching as he muttered, "Me? Commander-in-chief?" Lu Tingxiao gave him a sidelong glance. "Is there a problem?" "No. No problem at all. Boss, you really know how to use people." The dispirited look on Tang Lang's face was swept away, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "I will not disappoint you." Chapter 1739. In Lin Jiji's office at Shengshi Entertainment, Xiaotao knocked on the door and came in breathlessly. "Sister Jiji, I've searched Brother Shi's home and all the places he might be, but I still can't find him. None of them." Lin Jiji's face darkened. Ningxi had been shooting one movie after another these days and had barely had a break. After the shooting of Thunderbolt, Lin Jiji gave Ningxi a small holiday so that she could have a good rest. Although it was a holiday, she had told Ningxi to keep her phone number and other contact information open, just in case there was something urgent. Ningxi had always been very considerate in this regard and wouldn't let Lin Jiji worry about her. Unexpectedly, something went wrong this time. She had asked Xiaotao to call Ningxi and have her post on Weibo to promote the show and increase the ratings. However, Ningxi's phone was not connected to the landline at home. Xiaotao was worried and went to Ningxi's house to look for her, but she didn't find her. She didn't even see her at the places she frequented. Xiaotao wiped her sweat. "Yes, I've looked everywhere. What should we do now, Sister Jiji? Did something happen to Brother Shi?" "Nonsense." "Oh." Xiaotao immediately shut up, and then her eyes lit up. She suggested tentatively, "Sister Jiji, there's someone who can definitely contact Brother Shi." "Who?" "Big Boss." Xiaotao blurted out. "Shall we call Big Boss and ask him?" Lin Jiji narrowed her eyes. That person was too special, and she was just a small agent. It was inappropriate to call him directly and ask about Ningxi's whereabouts. Lin Jiji thought it over and over again and dialed the number. The phone rang 7 or 8 times before it was finally picked up, and a sleepy voice said, "Agent Lin, if you don't have a reasonable reason to wake me up, Ning, she is missing. Do you have any way to contact her?" Lin Jiji asked straightforwardly. The other end of the phone was silent for 2 seconds, and then the man's voice sounded much more sober. "What do you mean by Ning she is missing? Tonight is the premiere of 9 Clouds. I was going to ask her to post on Weibo, but her phone and phone are not connected, and there's no one at home or at the places she frequents." Lin Jiji quickly explained the situation. "TSK, this guy, is he hiding somewhere to drink again? You didn't even invite me to drink with you." Jiang Mai mumbled. "Ning, she is not a person who doesn't know her limits." Lin Jiji said, "Come on, have you forgotten that she almost caused a riot in the bar last time?" Jiang Mai directly revealed the truth. "I'm just worried that something might have happened to her. Don't think too much. Even if something happens, it'll be someone else, okay?" Jiang Mai was speechless. Hearing Lin Jiji's anxious tone, he said generously, "All right, let me help you. All right, I'll have to trouble you to check if she's with Boss Lu." "Oh." As soon as Jiang Mai finished speaking, he suddenly froze. "What the hell? You? How did you know about her relationship with my uncle?" "That's not the point. Why isn't it heavier? Fuck. I'm still counting on this matter to get hold of that damned girl's weakness. She's just afraid that you'll find out. We can't play anymore," Jiang Mai said with a pained tone. Lin Jiji was speechless. Chapter 1740. After Jiang Mai hung up the phone with Lin Jiji, he ran next door in his pajamas and slippers without even changing out of his pajamas. Where else could that girl go? Other than filming, she was either making dog food or showing off dog food. When he reached the entrance of Lu Tingxiao's villa, a man suddenly ran over in a hurry. He didn't even look at where he was going and bumped into him. "Oh my God, Uncle, what are you doing? Why are you in such a hurry?" Lu Jingli picked up the pile of documents on the ground and asked hurriedly, I have something to discuss with my brother. Why are you here? I'm looking for Ning Xiaoxi. Lin Jiji just called and said that she couldn't get in touch with her. Jiang Mai answered. Hearing Ning Shi's name, Lu Jingli's expression changed, and he suddenly froze. Jiang Mai frowned when he saw Lu Jingli's expression change. What's wrong? Lu Jingli pinched his eyebrows and didn't know what to say. Too many things had happened recently. The whole Lu family was in a mess, and everyone was busy. The Zhuang family had just settled the matter, and there were still many things to deal with. For example, the most important thing was Ning Shi's work. It was very tricky. Ning Shi was in such a state, and no one knew when she would wake up. What about her work? How was she going to explain it to her fans and the media? Jiang Mai had never seen Lu Jingli with such a serious expression. His expression changed immediately. Second uncle, what's wrong? Did she break up with my uncle? Lu Jingli took a deep breath and then said, Little Cici, something happened to Xiaobao. Xiaobao was kidnapped. She was seriously injured in order to save Xiaobao. She didn't wake up after the operation. Jiang Mai's expression suddenly became blank. He didn't expect something to happen to Ning Shi. What? What do you mean she didn't wake up? Jiang Mai's voice trembled slightly. She's in a deep coma and in a vegetative state. She's currently on a ventilator. How could this be? How could this be? When did this happen? Jiang Mai still couldn't believe the fact. She was rescued the night before yesterday. The operation was completed yesterday morning. Now she's been sent to the military sanatorium in the suburbs of Beijing. Jiang Mai stood there in a daze. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. The Lu family had sealed off all news of this. How could he only find out about such a huge matter now? Brother. Lu Jingli saw Lu Tingxiao walk out of the house. Lu Tingxiao took the documents from Lu Jingli's hands. At the same time, a black car stopped in front of the door. Lu Tingxiao quickly got into the car and said, Go pick up Lin Jiji and Xiao Tao. Send them to the sanatorium. I'll be there soon. Hearing that, Jiang Mai hurriedly said, Uncle, let me go and pick them up. Lu Tingxiao glanced at him and didn't refuse. Lu Jingli patted Jiang Mai on the shoulder. Mai, sorry to trouble you. Also, remember to keep it a secret. We still have to discuss what to do about this matter. Try not to affect little Cici's work. Jiang Mai nodded blankly. After the car left, Jiang Mai was still standing there blankly. After a long time, he wiped his face and dialed Lin Jiji's phone in a hoarse voice. Hello, Jiji, where are you and Xiao Dao now? I'll pick you up. Chapter 1741. In the military sanatorium on the outskirts of the capital, a black Maybach and a silver Ferrari stopped at the gate at the same time. Uncle, I brought her here. Boss Lu. Boss. After greeting each other, they walked towards the sanatorium together. Xiao Tao stared at the place in front of her, only to see guards with guns stationed at the gate. There were also guards on the high sentry post. Isn't this the legendary military sanatorium? It said that only important officials or relatives of the central government may recuperate here. Why is Brother Shi here? Is it arranged by Boss Lu? After arriving at the gate, Lu Tingxiao made a phone call. I brought a few people with me, hoping to see Xiaoxi. They are Xiaoxi's agent and assistant, who must properly deal with some problems related to Xiaoxi's work. So they need to know about this matter. After a short conversation, someone walked out of the room. It was a young officer. After seeing the officer, the guards at the gate saluted together. Colonel Lin, well, open the gate and let them in. Yes. Boss Lu, please. Lin Xian led them into the sanatorium. The entrance was only the first floor. It took about 10 minutes of walking, passing through several sentry posts, before finally reaching a row of red brick buildings hidden in the dense forest. If it wasn't for Lin Xian leading, normal people definitely wouldn't have been able to enter this place. Because it was not suitable for too many people to enter together, Lin Jiji, Jiang Mai, and others could only stand outside the glass window and watch. They used to be a lovely little girl. Everyone liked her, but her grandmother liked her the most. She gave her whatever she wanted. Once, her grandmother gave a little girl a little red hat made of velvet, which was just right for her. From then on, the ward echoed with the soft voice of a child. Lu Tingxiao quietly looked at the girl and Xiao Bao in the ward, and his cold face slightly melted. Lu Jingli was also moved. Xiao Bao spoke. In the warm sunshine, a quiet little boy, holding a book in his hand, was sitting quietly at the head of the bed, reading a story in a soft voice, like an angel. The girl beside him was lying quietly on the bed, her entire body covered in bandages. Beside her was a complicated apparatus with countless tubes and wires connected to her body. With just one glance, Jiao Mai couldn't stand it anymore. He hurriedly hid the embarrassment in his eyes, turned around, and rushed out. Lin Jiji's face was also full of pain. When they were in the car, Jiang Mai only vaguely told her that it was very serious, but after seeing it with her own eyes, she still couldn't believe that it was so bad. Xiao Tao stood beside Lin Jiji in a daze. Her face was pale, and her body trembled violently. "Brother Shi, Miss Lin, how long can you last?" Lu Tingxiao went straight to the point. Lin Jiji took a deep breath to calm herself down, then replied, "To be honest, I'm not sure. This will depend on the reaction of the fans." In the future, Ning Shi's 3 dramas, Ninth Heaven, Mother, and Thunderbolt, will be released one after another, and Ning Shi's popularity will reach a peak. Especially during this period of time, Ning Shi will be most active in the publicity period of her films. She is also the leading actress, and almost all the publicity activities need her to attend. Under such circumstances, if Ning Shi doesn't show up for a long time, it's okay if she doesn't show up once or twice. But as time goes by, the fans and the media will definitely be suspicious. Lin Jiji said with an embarrassed look, "I'm afraid I can't last long." Chapter 1742. Hearing Lin Jiji's words, the atmosphere suddenly became more oppressive, and everyone's face became solemn. Everyone knew how much Ning Shi loved her career and how much she had sacrificed for it, so they naturally tried their best to protect her most precious thing for her. Lu Tingxiao quietly looked at the girl behind the glass window. After a long silence, he said, "If Xiaoxi still hasn't woken up in 3 months, her real situation will be announced." Lin Jiji nodded. The time limit that Lu Tingxiao had given her was the longest time she could delay it. During this period of time, I will manage Ning Shi's social media accounts for her and try my best to stall for time and maintain her popularity. It would be best if Ning Shi could wake up, but if the situation is really out of control, I will arrange a press conference and prepare a reasonable explanation to explain Ning Shi's situation to the fans. Lin Jiji was very clear that the possibility of Ning Shi waking up was very slim, but even if there was only a glimmer of hope, she had to try. Fortunately, Ning Shi was living in the military sanatorium. No place could be more private than here, which could block all interference and information disclosure. But what on earth happened? Why did Ning Shi suddenly get so seriously injured? Lin Jiji sensitively sensed that there might be a lot of secrets of the rich and powerful, so she cautiously didn't ask more. As Ning Shi's agent, she only needed to know that she would do everything to protect everything Ning Shi had worked so hard for. Okay. Lu Tingxiao nodded and agreed to Lin Jiji's arrangement. Then he gave Lin Jiji his private number. "Call me directly for anything related to Xiaoxi." Okay. Lin Jiji nodded. At this moment, she suddenly understood why a free and unrestrained girl like Ning Shi would choose this man in front of her. With Lu Tingxiao's status, if he liked a person, he could keep her in captivity, give her everything, and let her follow his preferences and identity. However, Ning Shi had been dating Lu Tingxiao for so long without her knowing. Ning Shi even told her in private that Kamingyu was Lu Tingxiao. This man loved her, but never forced her to do anything. Instead, he accompanied her, respected, indulged, and protected everything about her. While Lin Jiji and Lu Tingxiao were discussing some details, Xiao Tao had been staring blankly at Ning Shi behind the glass window with a pale face. "Brother Shi, is it possible for him to wake up? When will he wake up? Will he wake up in 3 months?" Xiao Tao asked anxiously. Lu Jingli replied dryly, That's not necessarily true. Even doctors don't know when she'll wake up, and if she'll wake up, are you saying that, brother, she may not wake up for the rest of his life? Xiao Tao's body trembled even more violently. Lu Jingli smiled bitterly. I can't rule out this possibility. Lu Jingli's words were like a switch. Xiao Tao's expression suddenly collapsed. She held her tear-stained face and knelt down in the direction of Ning Shi. She burst into tears. Brother Shi, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Seeing Xiao Tao suddenly lose control of her emotions and kneel on the ground, Lin Jiji was stunned. She quickly turned around to help her up. Xiao Tao, what's wrong? Chapter 1743. Seeing Xiao Tao's reaction, Lu Jingli and Lu Tingxiao looked at each other and didn't say anything. They looked calm, as if they had expected this. Xiao Tao, get up. Xiao Tao shook her head and pushed Lin Jiji away. She insisted on kneeling. No, Sister Jiji, I won't get up. It's me. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Brother, she was so nice to me. But I made him like this. Xiao Tao, calm down. What's going on? Lin Jiji's expression became more serious. Xiao Tao was very emotional and kept repeating, it's all my fault. Lin Jiji comforted her for a long time, and Xiao Tao finally calmed down a little. She sat there in a daze and said in a trembling voice, I knew it. I knew a long time ago. I knew someone wanted to hurt Brother Shi secretly. They wanted to kill Brother Shi. 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 What? Someone wanted to hurt Ning Shi? How did you know? Lin Jiji asked hurriedly. Xiao Tao choked with sobs. Because they found me a long time ago. When we were filming in Chuan City, that gun. I was the one who exchanged it for that gun. I was the one who replaced the fake gun with a real one. What did you say? Lin Jiji was stunned when she heard Xiao Tao's words. She didn't expect that the person they hadn't found out last time would be Xiao Tao. Lu Jingli looked at Xiao Tao, who was kneeling on the ground, and sighed softly. They had been investigating who had changed the gun, but they couldn't find out who it was. It was as if the real gun had been changed out of thin air. But how could this be possible? Then, there was only one possibility left. This was done by Ning Shi's closest and most trusted person. That was why it was possible to change the gun without leaving any trace. Xiao Tao was the most likely person to have been by Ning Shi's side at that time, and had a chance. I almost killed Brother Shi last time. Luckily, Brother Shi was good at martial arts. I thought that those people wouldn't dare to take risks again after they failed this time. So I didn't say anything. He didn't warn Brother Shi. I didn't expect Brother Shi to become like this. Sister Jiji, I'm sorry. Boss Lu, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Boss Lu, please arrest me. Xiao Tao lay on the ground and looked at Ning Shi, who was lying on the bed covered with wounds, and cried even harder. Lu Tingxiao glanced at the girl on the bed with a serious look. When he found out that it was Xiao Tao, he was worried that Ning Shi wouldn't be able to accept it, so he didn't tell her for the time being. Instead, he sent someone to keep an eye on Xiao Tao. What was certain was that the people who had instructed Xiao Tao to kill Ning Shi were not the same people as Xiao Yi. Xiao Tao didn't understand the situation. She thought that Ning Shi's injury was also caused by the person who had instructed her before, so after seeing Ning Shi like this, she suddenly broke down. She felt that she had hurt Ning Shi and revealed everything under extreme self-blame. He had purposely asked Xiao Tao to come over today because he hoped that she would confess herself. Xiao Tao, why are you doing this? Who told you to do this? Lin Jiji asked anxiously. Xiao Tao's face was full of horror. Sister Jiji, you know that I have a younger brother who is studying in a university in China. Those people kidnapped my brother and threatened me. They said that if I didn't do what they told me, they would kill him. I don't know who they are. I only know that they spoke in English, and there was a translator next to them. I don't think they are Chinese. Chapter 1744. Did those people look for you after that? Lu Jingli asked. That's all. But they said they would have something for me to do at any time. They're probably waiting for an opportunity to strike. They even threatened me not to tell anyone. Otherwise, my brother might be in danger. The reason why Xiao Tao had revealed everything today was partly because she had felt extremely guilty after seeing Ningxi like this. She had broken down emotionally. On the other hand, it was also because she knew that this place was absolutely safe that she completely let down her guard and said those words. Thinking of Ningxi, Xiao Tao sobbed again. Big brother, she is so good to me and trusts me so much. He never doubted me from beginning to end. Other artists always order their assistants around and even beat or scold them when they're in a bad mood. But big brother, she has always been so gentle to me. Every time there's something delicious or fun to do, she thinks of me. I'm the assistant, but she's always afraid that I'll be tired. She doesn't even let me do the dirty work. Working with elder brother, she is my happiest time. If possible, I really hope that I can accompany elder brother, she, to the end. But there would be no more chances. Hearing Xiao Tao's words, Lin Jiji didn't know what to say. Although it was hard to believe that the person who betrayed Ningxi was the person she trusted the most, she couldn't blame Xiao Tao. Xiao Tao took a deep breath and stopped crying. She looked at Lu Tingxiao and pleaded, Boss Lu, I'm sorry for brother Xi's care and trust in me. I'm sorry for the company. But I'm afraid that those people will fly into a rage out of humiliation after hearing the news from my side. Something will happen to my brother. I know you're resourceful and you can punish me however you want, but can you help my brother? For a moment, everyone looked at Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao said, I won't punish you. You're Xiaoxi's woman. Even if I punish you, it's up to her. As for your brother, if you trust me, I will guarantee his safety. But the prerequisite is that you must listen to my arrangements. Lu Jingli explained, what I mean is that you will pretend that nothing happened today and continue to keep in touch with them. Then you'll be our spy. If there is any movement on their side, you must inform us immediately. Xiao Tao had already prepared for the worst, but she never expected that this would be the result that awaited her. Knowing that Lu Tingxiao was giving her a chance for the sake of Ningxi, Xiao Tao burst into tears again and nodded repeatedly. I can cooperate with you to do everything you want, as long as I can make up for my mistakes. Others can touch your brother, but I can too, Lu Tingxiao added with a frosty expression. It was obvious that he didn't trust anyone. Xiao Tao's back immediately trembled, and her body trembled like a sieve. I understand. She knew that she had betrayed Ningxi once and could not be trusted. She completely understood President Lu's actions. Rather than being on tenterhooks all day long, it was better to trust President Lu. Even if President Lu held her hostage, it was better than being threatened by those people. Lin Jiji was slightly relieved to see how Lu Tingxiao dealt with it. This should be the most appropriate way. She was in a special period now. If she suddenly changed her assistant who had been working for so long, it would cause too much noise. If it was someone else, it would be difficult to explain to the other party, and she wouldn't be able to use her at ease. Chapter 1745. Seeing the terrible atmosphere, Lu Jingli coughed lightly and tried to smooth things over. Okay. Since we've talked it over, it's settled. Brother, don't keep a straight face. Do you know that you make me want my pants? You're so close to sister-in-law that your aura will affect her. Hearing the last sentence, Lu Tingxiao's expression softened a little. They left the ward and walked into the yard. Jiangmai was squatting under a big tree. His eyes were red, and it seemed that he had just cried. Seeing them come out, Jiangmai got up and walked over to Lu Tingxiao. Can I talk to her alone for a while? Lu Jingli's mouth twitched. How could it be possible now? Sure enough, just as he thought about it, Lu Jingli heard his brother's reply. Jiangmai clenched his fists. Then Lu Tingxiao added, Xiao Bao is here. Hearing that, Jiangmai hurriedly said, Xiao Bao is here. It's fine. Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything and just walked away, which meant that he acquiesced. Jiangmai rushed into the ward. Puff! Jiangmai is an idiot. Lu Jingli shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. How could Xiao Bao be fine? This guy was probably going to tell Ning she is love in front of Xiao Bao. Just the thought of that scene made him sad. Lin Jiji glanced at the back of Jiang Mai, who rushed into the ward, and a look of understanding appeared on her face. He regretted it. Most of the time, people would only regret and hate when they lost something. Why didn't they say something or do something in Ning Shi's ward? Xiao Bao had just finished reading the story of Little Red Riding Hood to Ning Shi. He frowned when he found that someone had interrupted him. Jiang Mai hurriedly explained, "I just want to say a few words to her." Your father agreed. Xiao Bao didn't speak, nor did he pay attention to him. He continued to sit there quietly. Jiang Mai coughed lightly and said tentatively, "So, little grandpa, can you leave for a while and let me talk to her alone?" Upon hearing this, Xiao Bao's originally indifferent expression immediately turned cold, and the air in the entire ward became several degrees colder. Jiang Mai was embarrassed. He finally understood why Lu Tingxiao had said Xiao Bao is here. Okay, I won't avoid it. You don't have to leave." Jiang Mai thought that he was just a child and didn't know anything, so he didn't care that he was here. He dragged a chair and sat down on the edge of Ning Shi's bed. Up close, the injuries on the girl's body were even more frightening. There was not the slightest trace of vitality in her body, as if all her life force had been sucked out. Jiang Mai wiped his face and looked at the girl lying motionless on the bed. "Bastard, didn't you say that we would go out together?" After saying this, he buried his head in the ground. After a long time, Jiang Mai murmured bitterly, if I had known, I wouldn't have cared so much. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care who you like. Screw you, bastard. I like." Before Jiang Mai could finish his words, a gust of whistling north wind locked onto him. Then, as soon as he calmed down, he saw a fair and tender little bun staring at him like a dragon guarding its treasure. That little gaze was so fierce. Chapter 1746. He was wondering why a certain someone trusted him enough to meet Ning Shi. So he was waiting for him here. In the end, under little Tyrannosaurus gaze, Jiang Mai couldn't utter those words no matter what. He slumped his shoulders and sat there, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. Fuck, did I tear down the moon god's temple in my past life? This marriage line was too cruel. Late at night, at the border of Country F, Tang Lang plucked a blade of grass from somewhere and held it in his mouth. He turned to the person beside him and said, "The target's defense is at its weakest right now. The only person we need to pay attention to is the one wearing glasses. I'll go and seduce that guy later. No, seduce him." The man in black beside him. "What's the difference between seducing and seducing?" The man in black said uncertainly. "Are you sure we have enough people? I think it's too risky. Dealing with firearms, what if the other side?" "Don't worry. Didn't boss say that the other side won't interfere this time? Don't be afraid, just do it," Tang Lang said confidently. Actually, he was very worried at first, but since Lu Tingxiao said it was fine, he believed that it would be fine. It wasn't that he trusted Lu Tingxiao blindly, but he really couldn't believe it. For example, last time, who would have thought that Lu Tingxiao would call Satan at a critical moment? In the end, Satan actually reported his precise location and obeyed him. Based on his understanding of Satan, he trusted Lu Tingxiao's judgment. After Tang Lang finished speaking, he took out his phone unhurriedly and sent Tang Yi a text message. "I'm in the forest 800 meters away from your 10 o'clock direction. I can tell you the answer to the question you asked me last time. Are you coming over?" Almost as soon as he sent the message, Tang Yi immediately replied with a single word. "Okay." Tang Lang saw a familiar figure walking out of the house and smugly gave the person behind him an okay sign. "Done, let's do it." In the dark of the night, a group of people quietly approached the building in front of them in the forest. When Tang Yi came over, Tang Lang was sitting on a thick and solid branch of an uncle. When he saw the person approaching, he jumped down. "Yo, you're here. So fast." The answer. Tang Yi looked at the man in front of him expressionlessly. Tang Lang shrugged and said, "TSK, you already know, right? Why ask me again?" I want to hear it from your own mouth. Tang Ye's gaze became even sharper. Okay. I said it myself. Fight first? I'll tell you when I win. Tang Lang said and immediately attacked. Tang Ye's expression didn't change. He moved slightly and dodged the attack. Then, the two of them began to fight. After 10 moves, Tang Lang looked at the gold-rimmed glasses on his opponent's face, and a trace of fire flashed in his eyes. TSK, you actually didn't take off your glasses. Are you looking down on yours truly? After saying that, his moves became even more ferocious. After 100 moves, Tang Lang's wails rang out in the forest. Fuck! Tang Yi, you pervert! It really was a super freakish physique that became stronger when encountering strong opponents. It had only been a short while since they last met, but he was actually able to fight to a draw with him without taking off his glasses and without going berserk. Once Tang Yi entered battle mode, he would not be distracted at all and would not notice anything happening in the outside world. And this was exactly what Tang Lang wanted. It was unknown how many moves they had exchanged. Tang Lang looked at the secret signal of success, not far away, and his expression immediately relaxed. And at this moment, his lifeline was grabbed by Tang Yi. Tang Lang suddenly approached the other party, but he didn't attack. Instead, he hugged the other party and whispered in the man's ear, "Senior brother, I'm sorry." Hearing this, Tang Yi suddenly woke up from his battle state. His expression changed drastically as he looked toward a direction not far away. Tang Lang, you. Seeing that Tang Lang was about to rush over, Tang Lang's voice was slightly cold. There's no need to go. The person has already been taken away. Senior brother, don't blame me. I said before, I don't want to be enemies with you. This is the only way I can think of. Chapter 1747. Villa in the suburbs of Beijing, China. Feng Jin clutched the gunshot wound on his body as he stumbled into a dark room. Satan, Uncle Xiao has been kidnapped by Lu Tingxiao's men. Hurry up and send someone to save him. Otherwise, it'll be too late if he falls into Lu Tingxiao's hands. Inside the large sandalwood chair, the silver-haired man's expression did not change in the slightest. He tilted his head, picked up the teacup on the table, and took a sip unhurriedly. Then, he raised his indifferent eyes and said faintly, "What does it have to do with me?" Feng Jin's expression froze. His expression was filled with despair as he said agitatedly, "Satan, Uncle Xiao was at fault for hiding the truth from you. But everything Uncle Xiao did was for you. No matter how angry you are with him, you can't just watch him die. He's your..." Feng Jin's face turned pale as the man's piercing gaze swept over him. He suddenly stopped talking and swallowed the rest of his words. "Master, just for the sake of him being by your side for so many years, even if he didn't contribute much, he still worked hard. Heh, now you're trying to act pitiful in front of me? Why didn't you remember that I'm your master when you treated my words as bullshit?" Feng Jin had a history of pretending to agree, but secretly disagreeing. Faced with the other party's anger, he could only bite the bullet and continue to plead, "Just for the sake of your mother." Yunshin's expression turned even colder when he heard Feng Jin mention his mother. "Who gave you the wrong impression that I have such a good temper, that I would give opportunities to disobedient people time and time again?" Feng Jin panicked when he saw that the other party was determined to let Xiao fend for himself. "Uncle Xiao knows so much about us. If he falls into Lu Tingxiao's hands, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Black Dragon is the best example. Previously, they thought that the Black Dragon really did not say anything. In the end, they discovered that all their underground channels have been exposed, putting them in an extremely passive position. They were caught off guard and lost a large number of their men." Yunshin's expression was tainted with impatience. "I ordered him to stop all those things a year ago, but what did you do in secret? Do you really think that I don't know anything? If we really cut off those businesses, it would be equivalent to cutting off an arm. How are we going to fight against the Lu family then? This is Lu Tingxiao's plan to sow discord. Don't fall for it. If Uncle Xiao really dies, the organization will be in turmoil. Have you thought about it? After Lu Tingxiao finishes dealing with Uncle Qiao, you will be next. Is that so? I'll look forward to it. Feng Jin tried his best to persuade him, but he could not. In the end, he could only leave dejectedly. Feng Xiaoxiao leaned against the door and looked at Feng Jin's expression as if she had expected it. I told you it's useless. Do you think he's still Uncle Qiao's puppet? But everything Uncle Qiao did was for him. How can he be so ungrateful? Feng Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes. Why my ass? That guy's also the most angry about this, okay? If it wasn't for the fact that you guys acted smart and kidnapped Xiaobao, the outcome of this battle with the Lu clan would still be uncertain. That pervert had been looking forward to this battle with Lu Tingxiao to the point of scratching his heart. He was just in the midst of excitement, but it was all ruined by you guys. How could he not be furious? Look at it now. Since you guys are so capable, then you can go and die yourselves. Feng Jin's expression grew uglier as he listened. When Xiao Yi had wanted to lay his hands on Ningxi, he had some concerns. However, he had thought that Satan would, at most, throw a tantrum and not do anything to Xiao Yi. He had not expected that things would escalate to the point where they would fall out completely. The problem now is how to convince Master. Don't be naive. Now that we've touched their territory, it's useless no matter who tries to persuade them. Just wait for your death. Chapter 1748. Look at Tang Yi. He's much smarter than you. He knows it's impossible and has never thought of looking for that guy. At the mention of Tang Yi, a glimmer of hope flashed across Feng Jin's eyes. Perhaps Tang Yi has a way. Feng Xiaoxiao sighed. What way can he have? We couldn't even save the Black Dragon last time. How can we hope to save Uncle Qiao this time? What's more, there's still Tang Lang. Don't mention that traitor. In the basement of a winery owned by the Lu Corporation in the suburbs. A thick soundproof wall isolated the blood-curdling screams in the room. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. Lu Jingli pursed his lips. Are you serious? So fast. Your little black dragon has held on for 3 days. Lu Tingxiao sat on the sofa, his face expressionless. Xiao Yi's kneecap had been completely gouged out along with the minced flesh. He lay on the floor like a dead dog, his dark eyes staring at the man sitting on the sofa opposite him. He looked dignified, but his methods were more terrifying than the devil's. His eyes were filled with fear. He had thought that the Black Dragon would be able to hold on. He had thought that Lu Tingxiao was just a businessman who reeked of money. He hadn't expected him to be even more ruthless than people like them. Even a deity wouldn't be able to hold on under such a punishment. The people of the Lu clan are really hypocritical, vile people. He couldn't die. He definitely couldn't die. The Lu family hadn't been destroyed. How could he die in a place like this, in the hands of these people? If he could get out of here today, he would never let these people off. And that ungrateful little bastard, he had actually allowed him to die. The man on the sofa remained expressionless even after Qiao Yi had relented. Continue. Lu Jingli scratched his head. But he said he was going to confess? Oh, fine. He must be lying if he confessed so quickly. Let's continue then. Dawn was approaching. The man walked out of the room, dressed in his usual black suit. He looked as though he had just come from an elegant banquet, except for the faint hostility and bloodthirsty aura around him. Lu Jingli glanced at his brother beside him in a daze. He didn't know why, but he didn't feel cold. Instead, he felt very warm. He preferred this kind of older brother. This was the real him, and he even had a terrifying side to him. He wasn't always so perfect that he didn't seem like a real person, and he didn't hide all of his dark side in front of him. Tang Lang, who was sitting at the bar counter, heard the footsteps behind him. He turned around with a tipsy expression. Done. Lu Jingli waved the recording chip in his hand. Done. It's enough for him to be sentenced to death. Tang Lang raised his brows when he heard this and muttered softly, What's the point of making it so troublesome? Let's just kill him. Lu Tingxiao glanced at him calmly. It's legal. Lu Jingli walked over and picked up a glass of wine. Taking a sip, He put his hand on Tang Lang's shoulder and explained, "What my brother meant was that we are good citizens who abide by the law. Of course, we have to know the law and do things according to the law." The corner of Tang Lang's mouth twitched when he heard this. "That's right, you guys are really law-abiding. Compared to you guys, prison is simply heaven. You want it?" Lu Tingxiao looked at him and suddenly asked, "Huh, want what?" Tang Lang didn't understand what he meant. A certain Koi brand translator continued to translate. "My brother asked you if you want this guy's life. Originally, he was going to give it to the black cat. If you want it, he can give it to you. After all, it's all thanks to you that we were able to catch this guy." As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Lang was slightly stunned. After a moment of silence, he shrugged and said, "Forget it. You're right. Let's just be good citizens who abide by the law. Forget it. Let's just leave it at that. If he were to kill that person with his own hands, he would be chased by Tang Yi for the rest of his life." Chapter 1749. They left the underground winery. The cool morning breeze blew away the stench of blood on the two of them. After tossing and turning for a day and a night, Lu Jingli stretched lazily with sleepy eyes and could not help but complain, "Brother, don't you think that guy's weird? He confessed so many secrets, but when we asked him about Yunlan's background, he didn't say a word. Dad is the same. He didn't tell us anything. Actually, I was quite puzzled about this matter. With the old man's family and family values, even if he met a woman he liked and couldn't help it, he would never have the thought of marrying her. But the tombstone with my wife's name on it is indeed his handwriting. I'm so curious. Should we retry the case?" Lu Tingxiao replied, "No need." Xiao, he had confessed so readily because he wanted to live. But to him, there were other things more important than his life. However, all these entanglements were not important to him. Lu Tingxiao looked at the gradually brightening sky for a long time. After a while, he looked at Lu Jingli and said with a gentle expression, "Go back and rest." Lu Jingli rubbed his eyes and nodded. "Oh, what about you?" Lu Tingxiao replied, "I have something to take care of." Lu Jingli widened his eyes and said anxiously, "What's there to take care of? Even if it's a big deal, you should at least get some sleep first. I haven't seen you sleep since the day we went to save sister-in-law and Xiaobao." "I'm fine. How can I be fine?" At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's cell phone rang. He raised his hand to interrupt Lu Jingli and answer the call. "Hello, it's today. Book the next flight." "Okay." Lu Jingli couldn't believe it. "Where are you going? Do you want to die? If something happens to you, what will happen to sister-in-law and Xiaobao?" "I know what I'm doing." "What do you mean by that?" "You've forgotten that you're still human." "No, you have to go to sleep today. Immediately. Otherwise, don't even think about going anywhere today." Before he could finish speaking, Lu Jingli suddenly felt a sharp pain at the back of his neck. His vision went black, and he gradually lost consciousness. He felt as though he was being carried into a car by a large arm. "Brother, be obedient." Lu Jingli closed his eyes unwillingly and fell into a deep sleep. Fuck! He actually knocked him out without saying a word. Knock him out. Knock him out. Am I still your dearest little brother? What he was most worried about had happened. He knew that. Little Cece was not here. No one could persuade him. Meanwhile, all the major media outlets were crazily reporting the most anticipated super fantasy drama of the year, Ninth Heaven. This drama had an investment of 500 million yuan, and it had a super luxurious lineup of 2 movie queens. On the first day of its broadcast, the ratings soared to the first place, and the number of online views easily exceeded 100 million. The new couple, Jiang Mai and Meng Shi, quickly became a hot topic. Ning Shi didn't have many scenes in the first few episodes, so she didn't attract much attention. However, Lin Zhizhi heaved a sigh of relief and smiled bitterly. She wasn't worried that Ning Shi wouldn't become popular, but that Ning Shi would become too popular. She logged into Lu Ningshi's Weibo account and imitated Lu Ningshi's tone to post a promotion on Weibo. Jiang Mai immediately reposted it. So far, everything was going well with the fans, and no one found anything unusual. Chapter 1750. When Lu Jingli woke up, it was dark outside. The first thing he wanted to do was to call his brother. However, as soon as he went out, his phone rang. The caller ID was Mo Lingtian. Why did this guy call him at this time? Lu Jingli picked up the phone suspiciously. Hello, brother Tian. What's up? Mo Lingtian sounded serious. Jingli, what's going on with your brother? Why did he suddenly turn against the Guan family? Turn against him? Yes, he turned against him. He turned against him a long time ago. But how do you know? Lu Jingli asked suspiciously. How do I know? Now everyone in the circle knows it. The Guan family has recently been exposed to bribery and unfair competition in a big deal with the government. Guan Rue has been taken away for investigation, and the Guan family's overseas listed company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Now, the Guan family is asking for help everywhere, but your brother directly said that anyone who helps the Guan family is against him. Mo Lingtian explained quickly. Lu Jingli was dumbfounded. Shit, I just woke up from a nap. He made the Guan family go bankrupt? Now I can't get through to your brother, so I can only come to you. What's going on? Mo Lingtian asked in a low voice. Lu Jingli curled his lips. Tut, did Guan Xiao ask you for help? Brother Tian, don't blame me for not reminding you. You'd better not get involved in this, or you and my brother won't even be friends. I have to know the reason. Lu Jingli said sarcastically. Before I tell you the reason, I want to know what Guan Xiao said to you. She said your brother did it for Ningxi. This reason is reasonable, but it doesn't make sense. If it weren't for something special, he wouldn't have done this. Hearing that Mo Lingtian was still rational, Lu Jingli's attitude softened a little. Fortunately, you found me. If you found my brother, he wouldn't have bothered to explain himself. Then, you would have been tricked by her beauty. You could have cried a little, and you would have been fooled. I'll send you 2 wonderful recordings later, and you can listen to them yourself. After Lu Jingli finished speaking, he sighed and said, Brother Tian, I admire you for liking someone so wholeheartedly for so many years, and I respect you for being so persistent. However, I'm afraid some people aren't like what they seem on the surface. You should be more careful. After Mo Lingtian hung up the phone, he fell into a long silence. Soon, there was a notification in his mailbox for the latest email. Mo Lingtian lit a cigarette. After hesitating for a moment, he lit it up. As the sound came from inside, his expression became more and more unsightly. After an unknown amount of time, Mo Lingtian finally returned to the private room. In the private room, Guan Xiao saw him and immediately asked anxiously, Lingtian, what did Tingxiao say? Mo Lingtian looked at him with a complicated expression and said, I couldn't get through to Tingxiao, so I called Lu Jingli. He sent me 2 recordings. When Guan Xiao heard the word recording, her face turned pale. Mo Lingtian stared at the woman in front of him and asked, Xiao, are you hiding something from me? Guan Xiao fell into the chair behind her. Knowing she couldn't hide it anymore, she smiled bitterly and said, Yes, my parents and my brother did some stupid things, but they all did it for me, to make me happy. I can pay for my stubbornness, but they are all innocent. Chapter 1751. Innocent? Xiao, do you really think they're innocent? Mo Lingtian directly clicked on the second recording. All the explicit words of the Guan family were poured into the enclosed room. After the recording ended, the private room fell into dead silence. Lingtian, before Guan Xiao could defend herself, Mo Lingtian continued, Back at my father's birthday banquet, when Ningxi was pushed into the water and almost drowned, you were the ones who arranged it, weren't you? Ha! I actually still believe you. That was just an accident. Guan Xiao stared at the man in front of her in despair. No matter what they did, they are still my father and my brother. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to watch the Guan family be destroyed without doing anything? Mo Lingtian's back stiffened and his eyes were bloodshot. His gaze was filled with disappointment and coldness that she had never seen before. Xiao, you knew everything that your family did, didn't you? But you never stopped them. Huh? Faced with Mo Lingtian's questioning, Guan Xiao suddenly laughed coldly and looked up at him as she said word by word, Why should I stop them? That woman isn't worthy of Ting Xiao. If Ting Xiao hadn't been deceived and bewitched by that woman, our families would have been connected by marriage. With the Guan family's power and our families working together, that illegitimate child wouldn't be a threat and none of this would have happened. Xiaobao wouldn't have been kidnapped. But now, Ting Xiao wants to destroy the Guan family even if both sides suffer. It's all that woman's fault. Mo Lingtian looked at the woman in front of him and suddenly felt a deep sense of helplessness. He hated Guan Ziyao's stubbornness, but he couldn't say a word about it. Because, wasn't he the same way towards her? Even though he knew that it was impossible, even though he knew that she had someone she liked, he still couldn't let go. In the past, no matter what happened, as long as he could see her and hear her speak, he would be extremely satisfied and willing to do anything for her. Especially after she returned to the country, he felt as if he had been reborn. No matter what he did, he was filled with motivation and tried his best to make her happy. Even if he didn't get a response, he would gladly endure it. But now, every time they met, he could only feel a suffocating pressure. The girl in his memory that made his heart beat faster was getting further and further away from him, becoming more and more blurry. He almost couldn't remember what the girl he liked looked like. Was she really the same person in front of him? Mo Lingtian's heart ached uncontrollably. At that moment, his phone vibrated slightly. A foreign phone number had sent him a photo. On a quiet path, a girl wearing a light green floral dress squatted by the side of the road, teasing a round, orange kitten. The expression on her face was so gentle that it seemed to be able to dispel all the haze in the world. Even the suffocating feeling that was bothering him at this moment suddenly disappeared. Heaven's heart. Heaven's heart. When Mo Lingtian realized that this name had suddenly appeared repeatedly in his mind, his expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly put away his phone. The person he liked was Ziyao. The person he loved was Ziyao. He swore that in this life, he would only love this woman, but right now, what was he doing? This feeling of betrayal made him feel even more painful. Lingtian, we were indeed in the wrong this time. No matter what, my brother shouldn't have touched Xiaobao. But luckily, he didn't want to hurt Xiaobao. Xiaobao was fine at that time, and that woman had Ting Xiao protecting her, so he didn't cause any harm to her, right? Now that she's injured, it has nothing to do with the Guan family. Ting Xiao has gone too far by venting his anger on us like this. Lingtian, Mo Lingtian took a deep breath and interrupted her. Ziyao, I can help you find someone to reduce your father's sentence, but regarding the company, I'm sorry, I can't interfere. Chapter 1752. Hearing Mo Lingtian say that he couldn't interfere, Guan Ziyao's face was filled with disbelief. This man was willing to do anything for her in the past, let alone now when she needed his help the most. Lingtian, you're the only person I can ask for help from now on. You're the only person I can talk to in front of Ting Xiao. If I wasn't at my wit's end, I definitely wouldn't have bothered you. And Mo Lingtian's expression was numb. Zhao, the three of us grew up together. You're my friend, and Ting Xiao is my brother. The Guan family is in the wrong, and this is the best I can do for you. It's also the last thing I can do for you. Furthermore, Ningxi wasn't just Ting Xiao's sweetheart. She was also Tianxin's cousin. Guan Ziyao clenched her fists. What do you mean? Mo Lingtian closed his eyes and said, Ziyao, I understand your stubbornness towards Ting Xiao because I feel the same way towards you. Lingtian, I knew you would understand. Before Guan Ziyao could continue speaking, Mo Lingtian had already interrupted her. However, Ziyao, I like you openly and openly. I've never done anything to hurt you or the people around you in private, and I've never forced you to do anything. But you don't just like Ting Xiao anymore. If you really like someone, you don't have to get them. You have to do anything. Do you understand? Mo Lingtian didn't know if these words were meant for Guan Ziyao or for himself. But after saying these words, he felt as though he had been released. He recalled what Lu Jingli had said to him. Some people weren't like what they seemed on the surface. He had always thought that the person he liked was the most special. She was different from all the other girls. She was so unique and dazzling. He believed that she had really let go. He believed that she was the person he had imagined in his heart. He had always been living in his memories, immersed in his fantasies. Actually, he should have realized it a long time ago. She kept saying that she would let go, but at the same time, she kept finding opportunities to get close to Tingxiao through him. From the start, his value to her was probably only his identity as Lu Tingxiao's brother. He wasn't even considered her friend. It was just that he didn't want to speculate about the girl he liked with the greatest malice, and he didn't want to believe that the person he had liked for so long was the kind of person he hated the most. After saying that, Mo Lingtian stood up, pushed the door open, and left. Guan Ziao sat there in a daze, looking in the direction of the man's departure. It seemed that she had only just realized what she had lost. In the next second, she quickly stood up and chased after Mo Lingtian. She grabbed his arm and said in a trembling voice, "Lingtian, I'm sorry. I know I disappointed you. I know I lied to you. I've never given up on him, but I really had no choice. I couldn't control myself. I love him. I really can't watch the Guan family being destroyed in my hands. I beg you just this once, okay? This time, I've really given up. I won't disturb him anymore." Mo Lingtian looked at the girl's hand and didn't say anything. After a while, he slowly pulled the girl's fingers from his arm and said, "Ziao, I've also given up." Guan Ziao's face turned pale. "For you, I've already done too many wrong things and hurt too many people. So sorry." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.